I'm a DOT consultant. I've been doing this for about 16 years. I've seen a lot of things through the duration of my tenure. I'm going to try to help you in any way I can in regards to trying to maintain compliance, educate you where the trucking is today, and some of the new rules that are coming down the pipe. Quick show of hands, who in this room does have a CDL? Okay, cool. Self-included. I used to drive. Like I said, I've driven everything but almost everything but a bus. I've been down the road. In my tenure, I've been in 160 audits in 9 states. I'm declared an expert in court of law when it comes to transportation safety. I've met a lot of people through this industry, and I've met some people that think they know everything. I'm going to tell you right up front, I don't know everything. I learn every day. So, and everything that we go through and how transportation is broken down, I'm just here to let you know. I'm going to educate you with what I can. All right. I do encourage questions. Please, if you have any questions on anything I'm saying, please don't hesitate to raise your hand. I'm going to try to answer it to the best of my ability. If I can't answer it, I will try to get your email, and I will try to get you an answer as soon as I can. Okay? All right. Through the course of this, what we're going to go for, we're going to jump right in on what is a commercial motor vehicle. Okay? Some of the people that have CDLs understand this. Some of the people that don't, The rules that I'm describing to you guys today also aren't designed for your industry. I know this. So does the federal investigators and everything else that goes along with it. This is what the government defines as a commercial motor vehicle. This reared its ugly head about 10 or 15 years ago. What it states is any commercial motor vehicle, self-propelled or whatever, doing interstate commerce when a vehicle has a gross vehicular weight rating of 10,001 pounds or more. All right, you can go in and read the rest of them. I don't think that applies to you guys, but the 10,001 pounds is my key factor here. We've got to understand where this comes into play. Okay? 10,001 pounds, how they break this down. They say any combination, which means that could be your truck and your trailer. All right? Now you guys with all the equipment that we probably drive, we have service trucks and big trucks and all that kind of fun stuff. Where it comes into play is if you try to drive a truck, let's say for example, a 3/4 ton pickup truck. That has a GVWR around 8,600 pounds. You throw a trailer behind it, all in a piece of equipment, all right, with any kind of gross vehicular weight rating of 8,600, 1,400 pounds or more, okay, which probably is going to be. You take those two vehicles together, cross a state line, you are a commercial motor vehicle by definition of the government, okay? And if you're doing it for practice or work or compensation, you are a regulated carrier. Anybody in this room crosses the state line and doesn't have a DOT number displayed on their vehicle? Show of hands. Anybody been dinged with that? Okay. Well, usually the reason why I ask that question, and this is how it's kind of been phrased, and like I said, about 10, 15 years ago, they started really enforcing this. I used to tell people, you got that scenario, that size truck, crossing the state line. That means if the DOT number should be displayed on that vehicle, because the state investor, roadside cops and everything else, they're looking for that kind of scenario. You don't have a DOT number displayed on the back, you might as well shoot fireworks and flares out the back of it saying, please pull me over. Okay? I don't know, it used to be a real common practice a couple years ago. People are getting a little more wise and privy to this scenario. So when I start talking about gross vehicular weight ratings of vehicles and everything else, the 10,001 pound, I like to call that or affectionately refer to it as a gap vehicle. Okay? So 10,001 pounds, we are crossing the state line, which a lot of you guys are probably based obviously in Northwest Ohio. Michigan's not too far away, or vice versa, Michigan coming into Ohio. Both the states are broke, they're trying to get money. Okay? So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They're looking to pull you over. Okay? That's just the nature of the beast. It's just how the whole system's broken down. So, we are driving a truck that falls under that gap vehicle scenario. What is that individual required to have? Okay? I know we probably don't haul hazardous amounts, placardable amounts of hazardous material. We're not going to be hauling passengers that fall under that weight limit or amount. But the individual, that's a commercial motor vehicle. it is viewed very similar to a commercial driver's license or a CDL, okay? It's almost identical how the regulations fall into play. That individual has to be medically qualified, which means you do have to have a DOT physical card. You do have to have a DOT number, you do have to have a fire extinguisher, you have to have time records for that individual, and they got to be qualified, okay? And I'm not trying to make rules or make work for anybody. I'm just trying to tell you that's how the rules break down, and that's how they kind of look at it, okay? So, we are pretty good at the definition of the gap vehicle, 10,001 pounds or more, okay? And like I said, that's any combination. You might have service trucks of F450s, 550s, all right? Those vehicles probably have a gross vehicular weight rating over that 10,001 pounds. Okay? And when I say gross vehicular weight rating, I am not saying how much it can carry, what you put on it. All right? I'm talking about what is it rated for. All right? You open this door, side door of the driver's side, you will see a plate, usually on the side, or a sticker. And it will say GVWR. Okay? So that's where we got to look at where these weight ratings come from, where how they regulate the enforcement on these trucks. F450, F550, those trucks are probably 12,000, 15,000 pounds each. So they're regulated no matter what if they cross a state line. Okay? Is everybody in agreement with that? Everybody kind of understand where I'm going with that? Now the 10,000 pound threshold, like I said, any combination. Now we're talking CDL. Okay, I just want to make sure we separate the two. CDL stands for Commercial Driver's License. Commercial motor vehicle, by definition, that requires a CDL is 26,001 pounds or more. Okay? Where this can be confusing, where it comes into play. For a CDL, 26,001 pounds or more. Okay? That could be a big dump truck, you open it up, it could have a couple axles, could be a couple of different breakdowns on it. Where the problem arises, and it has happened to a lot of people in the construction-based industry, you know, when they really started going after it. If you have one of those F450s or 550s, and it has, let's say we got a 550 that has a gross vehicular weight rating of 15,000 pounds. All right, now I'm hauling a trailer. Let's say I look at the ton, and it'll tell me my gross vehicular weight rating on that. If the truck is 15, and the trailer is, let's say, 12. Okay, if I add those two up, that comes up to what? 27,000 pounds, right? Now, since the trailer is over 10,001 pounds, that scenario with that F550 and that trailer, that necessitates a Class A CDL commercial combination vehicle. Okay? The CDL breakdown, where it gets confusing, they even have an example in the regs. I could have a truck that weighs at GVWR 26,000 pounds. I can haul a trailer of 10,000 pounds even. Okay, that's what it's rated for. Now, if I add those two up, that's 3,600 pounds, right? That instance does not require a CDL. You're going, Jay, that doesn't make any kind of sense. Yeah, it doesn't make any kind of sense. I don't make the rules, I'm just an educator, I'm here to help you with these. Okay? Where the problem arises is, since this trailer does not equal 10,001 or more, that's where the CDL comes into play. Okay? A regular operator's license will suffice for that. Okay? Any questions on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was combined vehicles.
It is a combined vehicle weight, but the stipulation for a commercial motor vehicle is, I'm going to show you. These are the classes of CDL. If you guys didn't know, this is pretty standard throughout the country. There is a Class A, Class B, and Class C. Okay? These are the general classes of your CDL. Class A, any combination of vehicle with a weight rating of 26,001 or more, which I stated, and if the gross vehicle weight rating of the trailer is in excess or over 10,000 pounds. Okay? So, like I stated earlier, there's an example, an interpretation, if you will, in the regs. Even though I may have a gross vehicle weight rating of 36,000 pounds on that example I used, it doesn't fall under the Class A CDL. Okay? That make sense?
Absolutely.
All right. Class B, that would be your big dump trucks. A single vehicle with a gross vehicular weight rating of 26,001 pounds or more. Not hauling a trailer in excess of 10,001 pounds. So even if you do got a big dump truck, you got to take into account what is the weight rating of my trailer. What class of CDL we need. Okay? Class B is the common ones that you see the guys hauling: asphalt, stone, the small single units with a lot of axles. That's usually your Class B. Class C is the little brother of all these guys. I do have a client that does have Class C. And if you read that, that means not A or B, okay? It's either designed to transport 60 or more passengers or placarded with hazardous materials. Now, I don't think in this room we're really too dire straits of hauling the hazardous materials. But the example I use for Class C, if I have a Harley Davidson and I have a lead-lined backpack carrying a piece of radioactive rod on my back, that would be a commercial motor vehicle. Why? Because radioactive is placardable at any amount, as is poison, as is explosives. So then my motorcycle would become a commercial motor vehicle because that would require a placard. Okay? I'm not going to dwell too much on that, but I want to make sure that everybody's on page with the classes of that. Now this last one on there, the operator chauffeur. Who's our Michigan contingents in here? Anybody from Michigan? No? It's deceiving. Ohio, Michigan charter breakdown, so I'm all right. Generally, if you don't have a CDL, you have an operator's license. Okay? Just to go back to our Michigan brethren, and just to let you guys know, since there's nobody here that's from Michigan, that's a different country up there when it comes to driving truck. I will try to tell you, what's that? Yeah, it's a different country. Okay? But if you were living in Michigan and driving a GAP vehicle truck, 10,001 pounds up to 26, Michigan has it stated that you must get a chauffeur's license. Since we're in Ohio, you're based in Ohio, and even though you're driving up to Michigan, you don't have to get a chauffeur's license. Okay? A regular operator's license is suffice in Ohio. The chauffeur license is specifically for Michigan people that live up in Michigan, driving in Michigan and GAP vehicle, like a tow truck or something of that nature. Okay? Everybody kind of got the gist of that. What I have up here now, what is intrastate and interstate. Very important that we know the difference between the two. Okay? Most people have understanding intrastate means commerce that starts and stops wholly within one state. Okay? Interstate commerce, which is what the breakdown is, means commercial that originates in one state and has an ending final destination in another state or crossing a state line. That is really paramount to what I stated on interstate commerce for truck drivers, or people that are driving commercial motor vehicles, the GAP vehicles as well. That's where it comes into play. Ohio, if you have a vehicle that falls under the GAP vehicle, the 10,001 up to 26,000 pounds, it's not hauling placardable amounts of hazmat, it's really not a regulated truck for all intents and purposes, depending on how far you're driving. But Ohio hasn't made the rules to enforce the smaller trucks yet. Okay? It was in the pipeline about 6-8 years ago, where the federal government is pressuring states to enforce the small GAP vehicles. Michigan does that with that chauffeur's license. If you are driving a 10,001 pound, 26,000 pound vehicle, it is a regulated move within the state. It doesn't matter if you stay in the state or not. You are regulated, which means there's a lot of facets that you're going to have to go through, which I am going to explain. All right? Now, we're all pretty good with the inter and intrastate.
What's considered commerce? If you're going into Michigan, you say have your equipment, and you're not leaving it there, bring it back to Ohio. Is it traveling through the state at all? Is it considered commerce? Just have it in the state?
How they break this down, that's a great question, by the way. The commerce aspect of it, how our enforcement agents in their infinite wisdom, like I stated earlier, the bro, how they look at it, they, if you're doing it for money, you know, I had an instance where people are hauling horse trailers. And and they were doing big shows and stuff like that to Missouri. Well, from Michigan, and they said, well, that's a regulated move because you're doing it for profit, commerce, profit, or business. For furtherance of business falls kind of in the commerce aspect. And they will look at your plates too, all right? If you've got a commercial vehicle, you know, let's say you own your own company and your daughter moved up to Michigan and you're gonna take the company vehicle and drive up there and drop her off or try to take all their stuff up there or move in somebody from state to state. How they look at it, they see those commercial plates on that truck, and that's a business move. Even though it's not, by all intents and purposes, how they look at it, it's just a commercial motor vehicle, it's got maybe a DOT number on the side, it's got commercial plates, regular. 9.5 out of 10 times they're going to probably write you up with some kind of violation on that. In fact, I have a copy of that same scenario that just happened. Sunday afternoon, a guy took a tractor from Van Wert up into Michigan, was coming back home, was in the wrong lane and speeding. They pulled him over, says, I just took a tractor up to my farm. But it was kind of far up, but he had a commercial truck with commercial plates and everything on it, and he got a ticket. Michigan wrote him up for at least 12 violations. Okay? So I wish I could say it wasn't that way, and I'm not trying to scare you, but it's that way. Okay? I don't know if you talk to anybody that drives truck, or if you guys have had any see how really nasty they are getting on these roadsides. Very, very, very strict. Well, it was a CDL type truck, but he didn't have one. There was the type of combination that I was telling you about, like a 15,000 pound truck and a 12,000 pound trailer. And he just took his tractor up to his farm or his place, whatever up there, and they wrote him up for not having a CDL, and that's a very nasty fine. It really goes badly with your profile. Okay? Just to let you guys know, since we're on this, well, I'm going to do it here in a minute. Any other questions on that? And I hope I answered your question. Kind of link into what the DOT numbers and state authority numbers and where we're going with that. All right? When they first started DOT numbers a long time ago, that used to be the crosshairs on roadsides. You had a DOT number, that was where they were going to pick them off. Okay? Like I stated about 10, 15 years ago, they really went and did a push on construction-based companies on vehicles that they know that required to have a DOT number. All right, it's over the weight, it's over 10,001 pounds, you're hauling a piece of equipment, they were really going after it. By law, you are required to have a DOT number. Okay? My wife has a cousin that's in his own plumbing little business. He did something on that same vein, he took his company truck, hauled something for a church, or went up to somewhere in Michigan to get a church bell, or something like that. And he got popped up in Michigan, and it was about a $6,000 to $7,000 investment. They hammered him for it, okay? Because he didn't have the DOT number displayed. Like I stated, that's like shooting fireworks with flares, say, please pull me over. Okay, and I'm not trying to scare you, and it's been a real problem with some of the construction-based companies. Some companies do the methodology of having a magnet or a flip-up sign, or, you know, because a truck by itself, especially anything under 10,001 pounds, isn't regulated, all right? Your 3/4 ton, even some of the newer 1 tons. If you open it up and look at the GDWR, they're right at 10,001 pounds. And if it's just that truck by itself, 10,001 pounds or under, it is not regulated by everything I'm telling you about today. Drive it from here to California, nothing to do with it, as long as you don't put a trailer in it. Okay? Now, other states, we have in Ohio, we have a PUCO number. That is a state identifier. Usually if you're doing business within the state, for hire or for business properties, a lot of you guys in here obviously are probably private carriers, so you might not actually require to have a PUCO number. I would recommend that, you know, be careful with it, weigh it, if you really want to get the PUCO number. There are some benefits to having it, but there are also some pitfalls with having it as well. So PUCO numbers are one of the things that you see a lot of smaller trucks, we obviously within the state of Ohio, dump trucks. If you look at it, it'll say PUCO, Public Utilities Commission of Ohio. Okay, it's just another way. These numbers that I'm telling you about, why companies have to have them displayed on the side of the truck, you You guys have all been by weigh scales and seen the trucks and the guys out in the middle of the median. They have a computer right there. They're punching in that DOT number. There's a profile for everybody with a DOT or PUCO number. On that profile lists everything underneath that DOT, what they've encountered in roadsides, accidents, whatever. If a company's got a bad history of getting pulled over a lot, they're going to pull you over and see what they can find. Okay? If your company's really good, has got a DOT number, not a lot comes up, chances are you're probably going to get hurt. But they will use any kind of methodology to pull you over. They don't. The lawyer knows, oh, they got to have a reason to pull me over. Well, I've had a lot of experience talking with these individuals. Today we're pulling over every 10th truck. I'm telling you right now, they can make up some kind of excuse to pull you over. Okay? Now, this profile and DOT number and everything that I'm describing today, the roadside inspections are really paramount to your livelihood of your company. How they've broken it down is part of this CSA program. You guys, is that CSA, you guys heard of what CSA is? CSA was an program by the federal government. They instituted actually in 2010. And the funny part is, CSA in 2010, well, it didn't actually get really going until about 2012. But what CSA stands for is compliance, safety, and accountability. What does that mean? Back before 2010, if a guy got pulled over on the road, they would just write up the violations on the trucking company, whoever owned the truck. Okay? And that's the data that went on the profile. When CSA came into effect from a lot of entities, trucking companies, Ohio Trucking Association, all kinds of associations saying, hey, we've told these guys and they're still messing up and it's still hurting my profile. Okay? So what they've done, especially with the people in here with a CDL, CSA said accountability comes into play. The roadside inspections that you get, it's going to go on your own profile. Anybody with a CDL in this room has a DOT profile. Okay? It has everything that has ever transpired with your license out on the road. Okay? If you got pulled over probably in the last 5 years, it's going to show. It's also going to show your driving record. It's going to show soon your drug and alcohol. I've been telling people in a lot of safety meetings for a lot of years, telling you that Big Brother's coming. He's here. He's looking at a lot of things. That CSA profile can make it challenging for you to get a job in the future. Insurance companies love to look at CSA profiles. If you've got a problem of getting pulled over or speeding or not tying something down and there's a history of it, it's going to show. The more serious the violation, the more serious the points go on your profile. And I can tell you, there has been insurance companies that went to a company and went, he can't drive for you anymore. Okay? So it is out there. I'm not trying to scare you, I'm just educating you to what's out there. All right? If you do cross state lines with a commercial motor vehicle, you do have to register for a thing called the Unified Carrier Registration. Anybody in this room ever heard of that? Okay. That stands for Unified Carrier Registration. Long story, Cliff Note version of it, it's the federal government's or the state's way of getting money out of you for saying how many trucks cross state lines. Okay, it really doesn't serve any purpose other than letting the federal government know how many trucks you have from your profile and how many cross state lines. And today's computer age, they can punch it in and see if you're registered. Okay? If you're not, they're going to find you.
They're just CDL vehicles?
CDL vehicles, yes, you could take out some of the intrastate, smaller gas vehicles if you do that. The funny thing on the breakdown of it for the people that have done it, I think for 0 to 2 trucks, it's what, like $76? Is that kind of what the breakdown is? I think 76, usually 79. But how it had the demographics, it had like 700 to 1,000. You know, it's like $7,900. Okay? But for 1,001 or more, it was $79,000 to register for that. So I don't think that's a fall in this room, but that's a lot of money.
Even with the portion plates?
Yeah. Yes. This unified carrier registration. It takes the place of the single state registration. We had to do it with the state. This takes the precedence over it. It's the federal government's way of doing it. All right? Before I move on, are there any questions or comments on this? Fuel tax, if you're crossing state lines, now I will be honest with you, I'm not an IFTA expert. I've ran into clients that have had an IFTA audit, and they've told it to me that it's the most magnanimous waste of time ever, and a waste of resources. I see a couple head nods. So, yeah, it's out there. What they're doing, it's a fuel tax thing. You gotta charge your miles in different states, and then you gotta pay the fuel tax for the times that you were in that state. Okay, and I know one of my client in this room that went through that, and so I was shaking his head, said, yes, it's pretty much a big waste of time. It's all about the uncle revenue, which I will say uncle revenue a lot. Okay, I'm just trying to protect you, because I don't want them to get more money. They get more money, they get more enforcement. And the wonderful state of Ohio, if you notice, the Highway Patrol through their hat in the ring, doing the roadside inspections. The white cars with the Mickeys. Okay? Those guys have breakdowns, you got this many stops and only this many violations. I can tell you, I have seen a picture of a brand new vehicle right out of the factory with 12 miles on it. So they pulled it over and on a roadside inspection, placed it out of service. I've seen that picture, guys. I'm just telling you. I know today's not a good example, but just to give you an idea how nasty they can be on these roadsides, on a beautiful, cloudless, sunny day, somebody in the state probably wrote up, your license plate light isn't working at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay? So that's that uncle revenue phase that I kind of talked about a lot. All right? Any other questions on that before I move on? It's to help the company, help you guys, to make sure that we have everything that we are required to have in a driver file. Okay? We obviously need a copy of the license, correct, for the operation. We need a medical card. We have to have a copy of that. Okay? I heard some people earlier saying they just went and got their medical card. All right? I'm going to go into a little more depth with that here a little further on. We are required to have a current MVR. MVR stands for motor vehicle record. All right? If you're hiring somebody, if it's not somebody you know, you don't know them from Joe, usually you're calling your insurance company first and saying, hey, I'm thinking of hiring this guy, here's his license number, blah, blah, blah. We have covered it, you know, and what they're doing, the insurance company punches it in, they're looking at it, yeah. Okay? Now, probably about 6, 8 years ago, insurance companies before that used to give you a copy here. You want a copy of it, here you go. Okay? With the Privacy Act, and the funny thing about this whole aspect is part of the Paperwork Reduction Act, which I find humorous, they're not doing that anymore. Okay? Insurance companies by law are really not supposed to give those out. I don't know if anybody in this room is of the HR nature and heard of HIPAA. HIPAA comes into play for DOT. They are step-sisters, step-brothers. They don't like each other. DOT says you're going to do it this way. Things that we have to have on here, all right, contradict HIPAA. But DOT says you have to have. Okay? And I'll show you what those are. For CDL gentlemen, people that do have a CDL that are going to drive a truck that requires a CDL, you do got to get a pre-employment drug screen. You have to have the results prior to you using them to drive a truck. Okay? So, and I'm going to go in more in depth on the drug screens. We do need a road test. That comes into play for companies, which I don't think in the aspect of having a tanker or hazmat for you guys, but where it does come into play are guys that you hire that have a gap driver, 10,001 to 26,001 pounds or more. Okay? You are required to make sure that somebody is taking them out on a road test. Okay? The road test, I've had it, heard it from about a handful of people that the guy turned in a resume, he's the second coming of Jesus Christ when it comes to driving truck, according to his resume. Okay? That guy goes, he drove out, I drove back, because I was fearful for my life. Okay? So that's a story I've seen, heard, got a t-shirt. We need the data hire qualification file. There are other optional things, that's hazmat, which I'm going to kind of deter from. Entry-level driver training. This is a little newer thing that most people aren't aware of. If an individual got his original CDL after June 20th, 2003, they are required, you guys, or company is required to show entry-level driver training. Okay? Entry-level driver training, pardon my French, it's gobbledygook. It's everything you went through to get your CDL to begin with. Most of the companies now, we're starting to hire people that are coming from truck driving schools and everything else. If they went to a truck driving school, that truck driving school presents them with a certificate saying that they've received entry-level driver training. If they haven't, we've got to make sure they've got a certificate of entry-level driver training. Okay? All right. Any questions real quick on that? We're going to go to the next page. And it kind of links to what I stated earlier. The classes on there, types of truck, to make sure we are driving in the right type of truck, and making sure we got the right endorsements. The bottom of this page has a couple quick questions. For you guys that aren't privy with CDLs, there are a lot of types of endorsements. There's hazmat, there's doubles, triples, there's school bus, there's passengers, there's tanker. All those are type of endorsements, okay? I myself have doubles, triples, hazmat, and tanker. I'm not going to dwell on this very long, but with my hazmat endorsement, I have to go get, every time I have to renew my license, I've got to go to a state facility, regulated facility. They're going to fingerprint me, okay, digital fingerprints, and it starts the process of doing a criminal background check on me. Costs $94 or $96, okay? Once all that clears, I've got to go to BMV, take the hazmat test again, and once I got my clearance, pass my test, I get my hazmat endorsement. Every 4 years, I got to go through that, okay? And that's because our government has a very sincere belief the next wave of terrorist attacks is going to happen with a truck. To give you an idea, you remember when they raised the terror alert up a level? Have you ever noticed that the scales were open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Anybody ever notice that? They were, okay? So just to let you know the endorsements, make sure we got the right endorsements for the right type of truck we're carrying. There are now ways, there are also restrictions, okay? Restrictions means I could have a CDL, but I didn't pass the air brake test. It'll say, I got a CDL, but I have to drive a truck without air brakes, for an example. People in the military, they do a lot of truck driving, obviously. All right, and they will certify a guy saying, yep, he doesn't have a CDL in the military, but he's went through all the training and courses, and he drives CDL type trucks. The government, due to the driver shortage that we are incurring, saying, okay, well, if the guy's in the military, we'll just grandfather him in as long as his CO says he drove truck. Okay? The problem is, those guys get their CDL, but under restrictions it says automatic vehicles only. Because all the military, most of their trucks, are automatic transmissions. So they are getting a CDL, but under restrictions it says automatic transmissions only, so they can't drive a stick shift commercial motor vehicle. Okay? All right, so those 2 pages are to help people through my process. Now we're getting to the nitty-gritty. This is an application for DOT. Okay? This is the hardest part, well, not this part, but the whole process. This is the most time-consuming. As you can see, highlighted areas on there, I have to have those highlighted areas filled out on a DOT application. This is where it violates the HIPAA that I stated earlier. AKA your social security number and date of birth. By law, I have to have that data on a driver qualification file. If I don't, it's not a valid application. They say he's unqualified, or she. Okay? So we go through and fill out all the details there. Date of birth. Have you had any accidents within the last 3 years? Okay, we want to put yes, no. If you had anything, put it down. If you don't, there's a check and balance for everything that we do. Okay? And the traffic convictions or forfeitures within the last 3 years. Okay? If they say no, we run our MVR, which our driving record is going to state any accidents or any traffic convictions you have. All right, so it behooves them to tell the truth on it. If not, and if they don't work out, you say, I'll slide your application here, fellow. Okay? So we do have to have that information. Have you ever been denied a license or permit privilege to operate a commercial motor vehicle? Kind of more important for the hazmat, like I said, with my hazmat endorsement, the criminal background checks, there are things that if I got convicted for, I couldn't get a hazmat endorsement. Okay? So that is part of the whole part and parcel of the thing. And revoked or had my license revoked. Some people back in the day had a DUI or too much in points or insurance. It all gets filled out there. Have you had any positive or negative or positive drug or alcohol tests within 6 months? which there's a check and balance for that too, and had any criminal or felony convictions. So that's the part one, page one of an application. We are getting now to page two. This is the hardest part of the whole process, okay? How the government has it set up, I have to give 10 years of employment history with no gaps longer than a month, okay? And why is that, you say? The government has it set up that we have to have the 10 years. How it was phrased to me from an enforcement agent, how do I know he's not at Taliban training school? That's how they look at it. I don't make it up, and that's just how they go through it. But I do have to have the 10 years of employment history with no gaps. Now, I understand where I'm at. I'm in the union, I've been in places where union halls, guys are bouncing around. I still have to contact what companies have to do. You physically have to try to touch base with every previous company for the last 3 years. Okay? I cannot force them to answer, but I've got to do a good faith effort, is how it's described, to touch base with every previous employer for 3 years. Okay? I cannot force them to answer, but I will try. And it's a pain in the butt. Okay? Most of the places don't give this stuff out. Some of the large companies, they've outsourced it. Some of the large companies that outsourced it, they will charge you to get this information. Okay? It's just out there. It's one of the things that they're going to look at and hire and drive. Okay? To give you a funny story on this, I'm doing a safety meeting like this, hiring the guys up. I'm going up, the guy's coming up to me after it's all said and done. He comes up to me and says, Jay, you can't have my 10 years of employment history. And I said, yes, I can. But he can't. Went back and forth. And I said, okay, why can't I have it? All right, he goes, well, I was in the military, it was special, it's all top secret. I said, okay, you can put military down, and that's all the farther you got to go with it. Now, the guy standing in front of me was about this tall, 135 pounds, with a ponytail down his back, and was all tatted up. He probably was 130 pounds lighter. Didn't quite fit the profile of the military top secret. I'm not saying he wasn't, but he didn't fit the profile. Okay, so it is out there. This is the hardest part of the whole aspect. Moving on now. This is the last page of the application. All right, the top part up here, driving experience. Now, there is absolutely no way they can tell how many miles a guy's driven in their career. I don't expect you to know it. I don't know it. Nobody knows it. But the only incorrect answer in those boxes is 0. Throw me a bone. Guesstimate. How many miles did you drive per year? How many years did you do it? Okay? So we want to throw something on there. Next part, for newly hired guys after about 6-8 years ago, you have to have this verbiage that's written up there. You don't have to read it all. It's gobbledygook. It's your rights in regards to the background checks. It's all part out there. Certifying, blah, blah, blah. Good old lawyer matter. Okay? They're going to sign it. Now we're moving on. Like I said, this is really kind of designed for CDL guys, but the other guys will have to do it as well. This next page. Must an employer check the drug or alcohol testing on the records of an employee? Okay? Remember I said there's always a check and balance? This part right here, the guy's going to say, no, I've never tested positive, hopefully, or yes, I've tested positive in the past. One of the new things that's coming down the pipe, the federal government is starting a thing called the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse. They're collecting data today. Okay? Everybody that goes in for a DOT drug screen, the labs and everything else is giving their information to the federal government. By the year 2020, there's going to be a drug and alcohol clearinghouse where people are going to have to log in and validate to make sure that this guy's never tested positive in the past. Okay? When we're talking about drug and alcohol testing, again, for the CDL guys, it's cost of doing business. You have to buy diesel fuel. You have to have DOT drug testing if you have CDL guys driving CDL trucks. Okay? They have to be enrolled in a DOT random drug and alcohol program. How it breaks down, and the funny story over this, I was doing a safety meeting like this for an individual that just transplanted out from Colorado. Okay? Colorado obviously was at the forefront of legalizing marijuana. Get it anywhere, it's legal, doctors, everything else. Okay? The government has made it pretty plain as day saying, Don't care if you got it legally, don't care if you got a prescription, don't care. You are not driving a truck under the influence of marijuana. There's no exceptions, period. Okay? And we were having this discussion, and he goes, Jay, mark my words, they're gonna change the rules on this. And I was like, oh boy, I don't think so. I've been doing this for like 14 years. They haven't done anything. 3 weeks later, after that conversation, in between New Year's and Christmas a couple of years ago, percentages that we had to test companies for, drivers for, was 50%. Okay? So in a calendar year, 1 out of every 2 guys was going to get randomly tested for drugs. Okay? It was going to happen. And then 10% had to be randomly tested for alcohol. 3 weeks after that meeting, they lowered it to 25%. That was Florida. Okay? So 1 out of every 4 now has got to be randomly tested for drugs. Okay? Doesn't make me feel any safer, but that's the government, it's infinite wisdom. Okay? But make no mistake, the drug and alcohol is part of the whole part and parcel. And you guys are probably enrolled in other aspects of drug and alcohol programs as well. Drug-free workplace, Bureau of Workers' Comp, maybe some pipeline. I don't know if you do any of that. There's a lot of ways. Actually, if I was a smart man, I would have started a drug and alcohol collection site years ago. But I'm not that smart. Okay? But drug and alcohol, I do want to make sure everybody's aware. If you do test positive for a drug and or alcohol test, there's a lot of procedures that we got to go through. We got to go through the return to duty process. And it kind of links on that part. We've been through the return to duty process. What that is, if an individual tests hot or positive, you have to take them out of the truck immediately. The minute the company or whatever finds out, you got to take them out of the truck. Okay? They can still probably work for you. OSHA may not like it all that much, but from DOT, they can't drive. Now, companies can have a couple different parameters. You can say, we're a zero tolerance company, which means you test positive, there's the door. Okay? If you're not a zero tolerance policy, and you got to treat everybody the same here, if you test hot, all right, and they're going to keep you, you got to go through this DOT return to duty process, which involves I've got to go visit a substance abuse professional, a DOT substance abuse professional, so I'm knowledgeable of the DOT rules. You're going to sit down with that individual, they're going to map out, tell you what kind of problems or whatever you got going on. Once you get a evaluation from a return to duty professional, part 1, okay? In between there, hopefully the drug you tested positive for, the time frame is so long past, you've got to go get another drug screen. And this is the only time this box gets used. Out of all those boxes on there, it's called return to duty. Once you have the evaluation of a substance abuse professional and a negative return to duty drug screen, you are eligible to drive truck again, but you're not done. After that, the SAB could say, well, you got a big problem here. He has the authority, or she, can say, you got to get a follow-up drug screen once a month for 3 years. The general standard practice, though, is in the next calendar year, you've got to take 6 more unannounced follow-up tests. Okay? So at a minimum. All right? The government also stipulates saying, I don't care who pays for it, it's just the company's got to make sure it gets done. Okay? I understand this is it's different ways, but DOT is pretty strict with this aspect of it. You're not driving a truck without going through all the okay? The next part of this page, any questions real quick on the drug and alcohol? Just another side note on that. If you're in a CDL type truck or a GAP vehicle and you're enrolled in some kind of accident, for especially right now the CDL people, you got to go get a post-accident drug and alcohol test, and it's very important on the time constraints on this for DOT. All right. If your driver's cited or charged, which means if I was driving on unfortunately a company truck, I hit somebody, I'm cited for failure to control, and somebody, either my truck or their vehicle, has to be towed. I got to go get a post-accident drug and alcohol test. Or if I'm cited or charged, and anybody's taken away in an ambulance, got to go get a post-accident drug and alcohol. Heaven forbid there's a fatality, you are going to go get a post-accident drug and alcohol. Where the problems arise. The post-accident alcohol test must be done within 2 hours after the accident, which sounds pretty simple. It's not. But if it takes longer than 2 hours, you got, up to 8 to get it. Alcohol dissipates fast through the body, so it's really stringent that we get that post-accident alcohol test within 8 hours. If it's longer than that, don't bother, because you're going to get a violation if you come in. And on the profile for every DOT number, it will list every accident or inspection or anything that's on it. So that's always the check and balance how they use this. Okay? If there's accidents on the profile, they're going to investigate to see if drug and alcohol is required. Now, the reciprocal goes. If somebody plows into me, they get charged, and any vehicle gets towed away. It's still a recordable accident, but I'm not required to get a DOT drug and alcohol test. All right, so I just want to make sure that you guys were aware of that. Okay? Moving on. Driver's license, making sure I have only one CDL. What you got to understand, back in the day, truck drivers, most of the truck companies in this country, guys used to run them hard and get a bunch of licenses in different states, keep driving and just run them up with points. Today's world's a little harder to do, okay, with the internet and all the data tracking. It's just signifying saying I have only one CDL. All right, remember I said the 3 years I have to touch base with every previous employer? This is what these next 3 pages encompass. It's called safety performance history or background checks. These are what I've got to do for my clients to touch base with their previous company they worked for up to 3 years. All right, it goes into, did they work for you? Again, it's that Taliban training school. I'm not going to read all the stuff on here, but they are checking. Was he involved in any accidents? Was he a good employee? Blah, blah, blah. Okay? Did he have any issues with drug and alcohol? Guys, I've had instances where a guy was in Phoenix, Arizona, worked for a truck company, tested hot, said, I'm just going to move up to the East Coast and try to get another truck driving job. You know, be up there about 2 or 3 weeks. Goes in, applies, starts, they do the background check. Yeah, he tested hot 3 weeks ago. Okay, so it's out there. We have to do it. This part, this next 3rd page of this background check, this is out there since the CDL went into effect. I'm old enough to have been grandfathered in. I got my CDL grandfathered in. I had a chauffeur's license in Ohio, which they don't have anymore. That's what's the background check for drug and alcohol. Okay? All right. This next page. Guys usually run across this and they totally freak out, saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. What are you doing with my credit? Nothing to do with your credit. Part of the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the Patriot Act. I need this page for me to run a copy of a driving record for anybody. If I have this filled out, the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the data on that, and this next page, I can run the driving record on anybody. Okay? This is the release saying you can run an MVR. Which, remember what I stated, you have to have one before we start working for somebody, and then we also have to do this every year thereafter. Okay? We have to do it annually, and that's almost not enough. Okay? I do this for my clients. I have a digital scanned copy of it, so I run it. All right? Any questions on that? This is why we run it. This is the Certificate of Violations Annual Review. Hopefully you guys, if you don't have any practice like this, you should be doing this for every driver. GAP vehicle or anybody that would be driving a commercial motor vehicle is regulated. All right? It is the same for the GAP vehicle guys that are crossing state lines. They have to have everything on here. Not everything applies to the GAP vehicle since they don't have the CDL. Okay? This is the road test. It's very remedial, making sure you got it. It is one of the requirements for the CDL guys, or the GAP vehicles, or anybody that's driving tanker or has been. Any questions on that? All right. This next part is signifying I'm not in an hours violation. There's hours of service I'm going to get to here a little later on, and I'm going to go into this on-duty time. But what this kind of is in play for, back in the day, a guy used to quit a job on Friday, start driving for a new guy on Monday. Somewhere down the line, somebody must have gotten a wreck, and they look at his hours that he had the week before, and he's worked 120 hours at his previous job. So the new company was now dinged, saying, hey, I didn't know he worked that many hours. So they're making him disclose his hours before he starts working for us. All right? And the next part of this is the driver's receipt. Okay? Now I'm sure most of you people have policies and practices. This is a DOT one, just signifying I'm going to abide by the rules of the DOT. Part 383, 392, 390, just pretty much a garden variety driver's receipt saying I'm going to abide by the policies and practices of the company. Okay? All right, other things that I wanted to be put in here, like I said, going back to this first page, I do want to see copies of the license, copies of the medical card, copies of the drug screen, okay? All that has to be in there, in addition to the MVR, okay? So it is part of the practice that we've got to make sure that we've got it all set up in practice for each one of our drivers, all right? If an audit was to happen, they're going to walk in through that door, they're going to have a list of any roadsides that individuals had. You are also going to have to present to them a driver list, dates of hire, everything else that goes along with it, okay? I will tell you, the first people they're going to go after are people that they find on the roadside. They're going to go after if a guy got pulled over for not having a medical card, bet your bottom dollar they're going to try to look at his file and see what's the status with his medical card. Okay? The medical card, going back to that a little bit, beginning of this year, they actually lowered the percentages for blood pressure. Medical cards, if you're a perfect beacon of health, is going to be good for 2 years. If you have something going on, blood pressure, diabetes, sleep apnea, all these factors, it's not saying you're disqualified, but it's going to change the levels of being medically qualified. Going with the CDL aspect, if you have anybody in your workforce that wants to get a CDL, I'm going to kind of stress that you might want to go through it very quickly. Reason why I say that, the government is mandating a procedures and protocol saying that if anybody wants to get a CDL, they're going to have to go to a DOT-approved training facility. You're not going to be able to study really hard, go take the road test, pass the test, and get your CDL. Okay? They're in the process of revamping that as we speak. So if somebody doesn't have a CDL and you want to get one, I would generally urge you to go relatively quick, because it's going to be very costly in the not-too-distant future. Okay? Yeah.
What if you have guys under 21 that are not CDL drivers?
They can get a physical. They can get a DOT physical. The difference is with the CDL and people can get a CDL when they're over 18. Okay? The problem is they can't cross state lines with their CDL. Okay? It has to be 21 years or older to do interstate commerce to obtain a CDL. Okay? For people that are young that are possibly going to be going into the CDL or driving aspect, which by the way is turning into be a unicorn with the younger generation. They're not really running out to go get their CDL. They don't want to work all that hard. I'm not making it all over. I had one of those at home, but it is one of the challenges. Like I said, the program's going to be set up to where these guys have to go in, have so many hours of classroom, so many hours of behind-the-wheel training. They also stated that if you have a Class B CDL and you want to get a Class A, in the future you're going to have to go through that training module as well. Okay? Whereas I started with a Class B, studied really hard, and went in and took my test and got a Class A. Okay? Are there any questions and comments over this? Anything for that on the driver qualification files?
Who in the company would have to take care of this?
There is no, usually it's HR or somebody that oversees the safety program. But if they do come in and do an audit, this is what we have to have accessible to an investigator.
And who is qualified in the company to give this driving test?
Good question. Anybody with a comparable driver's license or CDL, for example, CDL is generally preferred. If you have a CDL, somebody that's been tenured, or maybe somebody's been working for you, anybody with a CDL can administer a road test. But I can't do, for myself, let's use myself as an example, I have a CDL. I can do your road test. If you have a CDL, you can do my road test. I just can't do my own road test. All right? If you don't have anybody with a CDL, if you have somebody that's been driving a long time for the company, somebody knowledgeable to handle it, they can do it, just so they have the comparable credentials to drive that truck. Okay? But a road test is one of the things that I would generally, I'm a proponent, I try to tell my clients, I get a road test on everything. And the simple reason being, heaven forbid there's an accident, okay? I want to have all my T's crossed and I's dotted. You know, if you're on your witness stand saying, how do you know he's a good driver? He's a good driver, I drove with him many times. Doesn't bear much weight. Where I could say, my senior driver took him out for a road test and here's what we documented. You know, doesn't make you innocent, gives you a little bit of a leg to stand on, which is a lot what I'm trying to preach today. Okay? Alright. Do we have any other questions in regards to driver qualification laws? They are very intricate, very in-depth, trying to help you with these things. Yeah.
A medical card, is that only if you're going over state lines?
Well, if you have a CDL, then no, you need to have a medical card in the state of Ohio. Okay? If you're driving a GAP vehicle, then you do need to have a medical card. All right? Most everybody has to have a medical card. And he brought up the question, do we need a medical card? I will tell you where it's going with the medical card. I don't know for a lot of the people with the CDLs in the room, your license, that black stripe on your license, that's going to pull a lot of data. Anybody with a CDL, you have to be certified in either class 1, 2, 3, or 4. What I mean by that is, they're linking your medical card and your license together. Okay? For CDL guys, not the GAP vehicles, but for CDL guys, they're linking your medical card and CDL together. When they run your license, or when I run a driving record or MVR, it will state on the very bottom of that, what is this individual certified? Okay? And I will go into the particulars with that in a little bit. Okay? I've been getting a lot of questions just in between on the breaks where people are still asking about the GAP vehicle and weights and everything else. The weight aspect when it comes to enforcement, it really still boils down to the truck, the weight, gross vehicle weight rating of the truck, and then the weight rating of the trailer. And the question was supposed to be, yeah, when we put a scissor lift on that truck, it's very heavy. Yeah, it is. It's still, for enforcement applications, it still goes by what the truck and trailer are rated for. But the weight aspect does become a player. The example I use, I had a company that went to a quarry, had a semi with a big dump trailer on it, 80,000-pound truck, right? Okay? He gets that, he leaves out, hits the scale, he weighs 78,800 pounds. So he thinks he's fine. Drives down the road. Have you guys ever seen the Stay on Patrol with the portable scales? Okay? That individual driving down the road, he grossed out at 78,800 pounds. Guy puts the portable scales underneath the axles. If that load is loaded kind of toward the rear of the truck, guess what? He's going to get an axle weight overload. So he's now got to climb up there and either move some product around until he's legal. All right? Even though the gross was underweight. But since the load, how it's loaded, another example is the people that haul the coils of steel. Okay? They can only put that coil of steel in a very small window. It has to be kind of put on there right into one spot to where that load is evenly distributed. Okay? If not, if it's loaded incorrectly, they can pop you for an overweight. And the overweights, there's a science to it. I mean, they have bridge formula, they have how far are the spaces of the axles and what type of axles they are. About 7 out of 10 investigators can probably find an overweight load on most of the trucks out there. Okay? I have a friend of mine that actually is in my county, he's the sheriff, not DOT, but he does the scales for the county. And he had a guy hauling steel, and he put the portable underneath his one axle and pegged it out. He literally had to put one scale under one tire, another scale on the other tire, and to get an accurate weight rating on this thing. The guy had like 6 coils on his truck. He was like 110,000 pounds. And he just said, well, he just did that load for free because he's going to be paying a big fine for that. So, but that's, the weights are an animal. You got to be careful with the weights. But as far as enforcement and coming into play and regulated, not regulated, it still boils down to the weight rating of the truck and or the weight rating of the trailer. Okay? So hopefully I'm trying to explain it to the best of my ability. If you still have questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Like I said, I'll give you an opportunity to email me or call me or whatever I can do to help you. All right? Any quick questions over what I've covered so far? Comments or anything of that nature? We're all good, everybody's good with that? All right. If you remember what I was stated earlier, for CDL guys going into your medical card being linked to your CDL. For myself as an example, I have a CDL. Right now I am not driving a truck, but I do have to certify my CDL with the state, and every state is different how they do it, how they get the results in there, but Ohio has it set up to where you can email or fax, or I personally recommend if you do have a CDL and you do get a medical card, swing by the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, give them a copy of it. They will charge you like $3 or $4, and then they will update your CDL. What I have up here are the categories that the federal government has set up. All right, there's category 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, category 1 is the most popular. Category 1 means I'm driving a commercial motor vehicle with a CDL that is not exempt from the medical requirements. Okay, that is a whole bunch of companies. Category 2, I do cross state lines, but I'm exempt from the medical requirements. The people being exempt from medical requirements sometimes are state or snowplow guys, or guys that are hauling something where they're doing it for the public. All right, like some utilities companies can be exempt from doing that, so they would have to do category 2. Category 3, there's that interstate again. Category 3, which is how I'm registered, I'm driving a commercial motor vehicle and not exempt from the medical requirements. On my CDL, remember the restriction things I was telling you about? Mine has a K on there. K means intrastate. I can't use my CDL and drive across the state line at present. I can always go back if I get a medical card and need to cross state lines. I go get a medical card, go to the BMV, show it to them. They will change me from category 3 to category 1. And category 4 is the same thing as 2. I'm staying within the state, but I'm exempt from carrying a medical card, which is so few companies. Okay, so 1 and 3 are your predominant ones. 1 is the one where I must keep a copy of my medical card with the state. Now, how long is your license good for? Right? Remember what I said on medical cards? How long if you're per beacon of health? 2 years. There's an overlap here. Alright? If you get a medical card that comes up for renewal and you don't get a copy of it to the state, okay? Or companies have done this where I told you you can fax it or email it to the state. If you can do it, it's fine, except you're at the mercy of the state when they decide to enter it, okay? If the state doesn't get your new medical card and you're listed as category 1, I don't know if anybody's got the nasty grams where they send a letter saying your license will be, your CDL will be disqualified. That's what happens if they don't, if you're listed as category 1 and you don't get a new copy of your medical card and you don't update it, under your status of your license it'll say DL valid, CDL suspended. Alright, and we don't want to be there. So that goes into, remember I said we had to run your MVR, or you swipe your license, that medical information shows on there. It tells them exactly how you're certified, and if it's not updated and your CDL is suspended, God help you if you get wrecked, even if it's not your fault, guess what? It's your fault. All these rules that I'm describing about today, how they get their authority to do that, we're driving something that is defined as a commercial motor vehicle versus John Q. Public. We're going to do it their way. Okay, so that's where it all boils down to. That's how it all breaks down. Okay, so the main categories when it comes to CDLs, we have to make sure we get our medical card in there and make sure it gets updated. Like I said, I generally urge companies, if you're out getting a medical card, stop by the BMV, have them updated if you're planning on crossing state lines. It will run, and like I said, if they run your license and you're at an Ohio license, you're certified category 3, and you're up in Michigan, you're going to get popped, and you're going to get a violation. It's going to go against the company, it's going to go against you. Okay? Any questions on that? I know for you people without CDLs, it's probably hard to understand. And if you are driving a commercial motor vehicle, a GAP vehicle as it stands today, you don't have to go through all this rigmarole. This really is designed for CDL only people. Okay? All right. I kind of hinted on the road test, a seasoned tenured driver. I told you kind of all about that, so I'm not going to dwell on that. If you are hiring somebody, make sure they fill out their driver file in its entirety, get copies of which I kind of stated. You got to have the pre-employment drug screen results before you start using them. That used to be the #1 violation in an audit for companies. They'd hire a guy, they'd get him into a drug screen, throw him in the truck that day. When he goes in, they didn't actually get the results till a couple days later. Okay? Can't do that. They will check on that. That's where in an audit, they will ask you for dates of hire, and they're going to look right at the drug screen and see when the results came in. Okay? Any questions on that? All right. We are switching steps here. We are going into the maintenance aspect of it. For you guys driving these trucks, the maintenance aspect. And this goes all the way down to if you are driving a GAP vehicle. Like I stated, the GAP vehicle is almost the same as the CDL guy. The only real difference is they don't have to do DOT drug testing, but they do have to have everything else that goes into effect that I'm about to just tell you. Okay? Maintenance is one of the aspects. It's generally part that, and it's there, and companies are usually really good at it. Maintenance is part of it. If you have a good maintenance program, it does help you in the course of an audit. If you don't do the maintenance on it, you're playing a little bit of Russian roulette, okay? The roadside guys, they're trying to pull things over. If they see a piece of equipment that isn't tied down properly, it's gonna go, all right? But I can't stress enough to drivers before they leave, and I've been doing safety meetings all last week and this week, telling drivers, as God is the Almighty, before you leave out of the lot, make sure that truck's in fine working order. Okay? They are looking to pull you over. If they see a marker light out, they're going to pull you over. If they see a headlight out, they're going to probably pull you over. Okay? Mud flaps, tie downs, make sure it's all buckled down. Take the 5 minutes, get the light fixed before you go. Now, I could stand up here all day and tell you about Utopia. I haven't been there, never seen it. It's not there. You drive on these fine roads in the state of Ohio and wonderful roads up in Michigan. These are mechanical things. They're going to break, okay? But we're trying to reduce the risk of them pulling us over. So if you have, like I said, the marker light is one of the nuances, okay? We got to make sure we have all that. The other things that we do have to have, every year, every commercial truck and or trailer that would hit the road, you know, they could be your 3/4 ton that's all on the trailer, they have to have an annual inspection on it, all right? You guys that have the bigger trucks, you understand the old things where they used to put the sticker on the outside of the car, the truck? That's what I'm talking about, it's an annual inspection. Okay, some places now put them inside the door jams or inside the truck because the investigators, if you put them outside, they usually write on black markers saying, hey, this truck was inspected on, blah, blah, blah. Through the course of weather and sun, they'd be all taken out, and that guy would write them up saying, I can't read your annual inspection, you don't have an annual inspector vehicle. Okay. So other practice with that, I do like to have the sticker in there, and what I promote to my clients is to have a binder in your truck and have another hard copy of that annual inspection in there. If you do get pulled over, I'm probably going to look at that. All right? That's one of the triggers that's probably going to be bringing them in. Okay? Your internal record keeping. You have to have documentation on all your trucks and or trailers that would hit the road that would be deemed commercial, and you have to have a running total of everything that you've done to that truck or trailer. All right? What they are looking for, especially bigger trucks with air brakes, they are looking for your service plan. What is the service plan that you're looking at these trucks? Is it months? Is it miles? Is it hours? Is it something? You got to have some kind of plan. All right? Every time a truck comes in for maintenance, I tell companies, you don't have to write me a doctorate or anything, just write a little synopsis to what you've done to the truck. If you did a service A, which consists of lube oil and checked brakes, checked brakes. You want to acknowledge you are looking at the truck in a routine manner. This can be your best friend in an accident scenario. Unfortunately, I had an instance where one of my clients was involved in a fatality wreck. He was driving a semi, so I don't know if he was distracted or what, but he slammed on his brakes, left 40 foot of tread mark, and hit another vehicle, and my client perished in that accident. Bang, okay, it wasn't good. Every time you see an accident on the road involving a commercial motor vehicle, don't you always see the investigator looking at it, making sure to see what's going on with the truck or trailer, right? You guys always see that and always investigate it. Well, at this accident scene, we had the roadside inspection work, and I know the inspector walked out and said, the brakes are out of adjustment on this truck and trailer, okay? If you're knowledgeable at all with the commercial motor vehicles and semis, if you hit your brakes that hard and the air brake system, how it's set up, you've knocked them out of adjustment. They literally crawl underneath your truck and measure. There's a plunger that goes in there and they measure the throw, how far it goes. And in each type of truck, each type of cylinder, they have a special measurement. All right, use a little white chalk line and measure. All right, I've seen them write it out. It's 1/8 of an inch out. Okay, which I argue that's the amount of the chalk line, but neither here nor there. But the accident, the investigator wrote the brakes are out of adjustment on this truck and trailer. Well, in this instance, 3 weeks prior to that accident, the company's maintenance program had it spelled out and had it documented to the bolt. They replaced heads, drums, adjusters, they did everything. Had it all spelled out by their certified mechanic. He did everything they could do right. That truck was in fine working order at the time of that accident because they just did everything on it, okay? They have proof that every tire locked up, broke and did what it's supposed to do. It didn't make and they also had daily vehicle inspection reports in the driver's handwriting saying, hey, this truck's fine, okay? It didn't make them innocent, but it gave them a little bit of a leg to stand on. If something would have came through, and when you get insurance companies and their lawyers involved in all this stuff, you gotta have your T's crossed and I's dotted. So a good maintenance program is really worth its weight in gold in the right scenario, okay? You wanna document everything you do to that truck. You change anything from a fuse to a transmission, document. Have a nice running total. On the total, you can have a header on it. It's got to have unit number, VIN number, make, model, year, tire size, and every one. Okay, a header with all that data points on there, and then you have a list of all the little stuff you've done to it. Just have a running total. You have to keep that for as long as you own the vehicle, and then you also have to keep those records for 6 months even after you get rid of the vehicle. Okay, very, very important. Now, I also use the aspect of the full circle effect. Happenstance, you get pulled over, a mud flat got ripped off, or somebody hit something, you got a flat tire on a roadside inspection. Okay? So when they read up the roadside inspection saying, hey, you got a bad tire, mud flat, blah, 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 there's a tracking on it, all right? On the profile, remember I stated on your profile, all the roadside inspections that go under that DOT number, whatever company? If unit number 20 had a bad tire January 5th, all right, and auditor is going to come in and say, I want to look at unit number 20's maintenance record. I want to see that that tire or mud flat was repaired. Okay, I also want to see a daily vehicle inspection report saying it was fixed. Okay, now, daily vehicle inspection reports. I know when somebody goes to apply for a DOT job and trying to get all the credentials to get a CDL, they are hammering pre-trip, 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 right? Am I right in that assumption? Did you guys say that? How it's drafted in our handy-dandy federal book, how they enforce it in an audit. And I'm just going to tell you it verbatim since I know it. What it states, if you want to write, if you want to look it up on your own, it's 396.11. It says pre-trip inspection. A, be satisfied the vehicle is in safe operating condition. B, review the last driver vehicle inspection report. And C, sign a report only if defects or deficiencies were noted by the driver prepared report. Okay? Which kind of contradicts everything they tell you when you're going in to get a CDL. Because they say you got to look at this 128 list thing. Okay? Post-trip inspection. What that drafted says, at the completion of each day's work on each vehicle operated, you must do a thorough post-trip inspection. Which, for the longest time, I was like, man, that just is wrong. It's not how they preach it. But I finally got an answer where that makes sense on why I'm telling you that. Okay? As a driver of a commercial motor vehicle, when are you most knowledgeable on the condition of that vehicle? Beginning of the day or end of the day? Okay? Now, daily vehicle inspection reports. 2-3 years ago, the government, part of the Paperwork Reduction Act, they deemed that daily vehicle inspection reports were a magnanimous waste of time. Okay? So by law, if there's nothing wrong with the vehicle, you don't have to do a daily vehicle inspection report. Okay? Years ago, that was very animalistic. You had to have daily vehicle inspection reports, and you had to have them for 90 days. If they came in today, you had to go back 90 days and show them a daily vehicle inspection report. Okay? When I first heard that, I went, okay, there's gotta be a catch to this. And I found out what the catch was. Okay? I had a hazmat company. The guy had a leak, and he didn't report it. Well, that investigator, he got pulled over and got hammered. The driver was so scared with everything that was going on. He says, oh yeah, I told them to fix it, they didn't fix it. Well, long story short, he never told the company that it was leaking. You know, just a small little leak, but it was a leak in a hazmat vehicle, it's no good. Okay? And it resulted in an audit for that company because it was so bad. Because they were under the guise that this company is disregarding the rules and forcing the guy to drive, which that wasn't the case. But he goes, well, that's been leaking for a couple of days. Where's your daily vehicle inspection report? Why haven't you wrote it up for all those times? Okay, so the daily vehicle inspection report is kind of our catch-22. I still tell my clients, I would feel better if I would write up the daily vehicle inspection report. It's up to them whether they want to do it or not, but I would still have them document, hey, the truck's in pretty good shape. Okay? Does that make any sense to anybody? Does everybody kind of see where I'm going with this? Okay? And the roadside inspections, like I said, linking back to that, that is one of the triggers for them to come in to do an audit. Roadsides now are very, very important to the livelihood of a company. So we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can do to put a good, safe vehicle out on the road. Okay? The documentation can really pay dividends in the right scenarios. It's very, very important. All right? Annual inspections. Who can do the annual inspections? The way it was, if you were mechanically certified to do these set repairs, if you had experience total in 1 year doing that. Well, a couple years ago, they started cracking down a little bit on this. Okay? I kind of tell companies, if you're going to outpush, I would bet almost everybody in this room outsources their maintenance. I don't think they do a lot of it. Am I correct in that assumption? Yes? No? You do a lot of it yourself? You do have to be, if you're going to work on an air brake system, you have to be mechanically certified. If you're going to do the work yourself, I would genuinely urge you to get some kind of training. If you've got any kind of certificates, went to a Bendix class, ASME certified, have something to back up your maintenance, okay, that you are qualified to do this, okay? And if so, then you can be qualified to do the annual inspection, okay? It's very important. They will look at this. They will make sure. You have to have 14 months of annual inspections on record if they do something for an audit, okay? Which means they generally want to see the previous one and the new one, all right? It's one of the nuances. It's very important. Heaven forbid there's an accident, they're going to go right to that annual inspection. Make sure it's right as rain, okay? The accident scenario that I keep trying to tell you about, if your truck is overloaded or overweight and you get involved, you could be sitting at a stop sign and somebody hits you, okay? But if you're overweight or your truck's not annually inspected and it gets into the wrong hands, guess whose fault of that accident just became? Your worship. Okay? Because they're going to argue, their lawyer's going to argue saying, well, that truck's overweight, or that truck's not annually inspected, shouldn't have been there. If it wasn't there, we're not having this conversation now, are we? Okay? So I can't stress enough the importance of the maintenance aspect. Yes, it's a problem. Yes, the roads are less than pristine. Trucks get beat up on the course of work. That's where your drivers be knowledgeable and everything else. Now, going back to drivers and roadside inspections. I don't know if this scenario's presented yourself to you guys. I've had a lot of meetings where drivers, this has happened for other trucking companies. Guy gets pulled over. Investigator walks around the truck. Says, that looks pretty good, you're fine, get out of here. Okay? If that scenario ever happens, If they don't give you a sheet of paper, guess what? That roadside never happened. Okay? Remember how I told you there's a profile for everything? They will write up no violations discovered roadsides. We want those. We want to keep our procedures and our percentages looking good. Very important. So I urge drivers, I tell them, I said, hey, drivers, if that ever happens to you, what I suggest you do, say, sir, man, can I please have a copy of my sheet of paper? And there's two answers that follow. Number one is the one you're probably going to get. You want me to find something? And I want the drivers to go, hey man, no, the safety director wanted me to ask. No, it's your world, I'm just here, you know? But what I try to tell these people, and one of the things that I do is I fight for my clients, that's ruining his productivity. You know, if they're gonna take the time to stop you, they can take the time to write up the violation. No violations discovered roadside, okay? And they will either go do it or they won't. Somebody finally took them to task on it because that was a big problem in the state. They were only pulling you over, and if they saw something, then they would go at it. But if they didn't see anything, they said, get out of here. They just didn't finish up the job. And that's no good, especially with how it's broken down. Your profile on roadsides and maintenance aspects, how it breaks down. Let's say you got a flat tire, and I'm not exactly sure if the point actually comes into play, but it shows up on your profile that unit number 20, driven by Joe, got pulled over on January 5th and had a flat tire. On the profile, under maintenance, which there's 7 sections of the profile, which I'm going to show you, it's broken down as such, you know, violation 396, blah, 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 have a bad tire. Time weight, it's really recent, within 0 to 1 year. All right, if that violation has a point weight of 10, it's 10 times 3, or 30 points, okay, for the first year on a profile. After a year, from the second year to the third year, it's 10 times 2, 20 points. By the third year, it's 10 times 1, or 10 points. So when it falls off your profile, it's worth 1/3 of points because they're originally the new ones are. Okay? Which is kind of crappy how they do that, but that's how they track profiles. And they will go after companies that have bad profiles on the roadsides. That is a trigger for them to come in. They're going to investigate. If you've got problems with maintenance and you're in a guarded position, they're going to come in and investigate why. All to it. You guys start to get the pop, the CSA and roadsides, things that never used to go on a profile before starting to go on there. Speeds, seatbelts. Okay? Seatbelts is now a DOT violation in addition to your regular driving record. Okay? They use it as a DOT trigger. If a company got pulled over and one time that Joe didn't have it, and look at a profile, this guy, one of your drivers didn't have a seatbelt on. Again, going back to what I told you, that's one of the excuses they can say, I'm pulling you over. This guy got pulled over, we're not wearing a seatbelt. I want to see if you had it on. But since I pulled you over, let's see what else we can find. Okay? So it's all out there. I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page with that. Okay? Any questions on that? All right. Items needed that should be in every commercial motor vehicle, and this goes even down to the GAP vehicles. Okay? Not everything on this list applies, but most of it does. Obviously, you want to have a copy of your driver's license with you. You also want to have a copy if you're required to have a medical card if your GAP vehicle crosses the state line. If you are driving far, which logs I'm getting into next, you need a logbook. All right? You need a copy of the previous daily vehicle inspection report, but this is actually outdated because I told you if there was nothing wrong with it, you don't have to have that previous daily vehicle inspection report. So we can get rid of that. But you do need your annual inspection. Hard copy and sticker. You need a fire extinguisher in your truck. It has to be rated 10 DC or higher. 10 DC does not institute pounds. It's what type of fire is rated and designed to fight. Okay? And I can tell you with confidence that most of the small trucks that we have in here, if you have a fire extinguisher in there, it's usually right next to the door or something like that, or maybe up in the back. Make sure it is clamped down. Do not have it just floating in there. They will write that up saying fire extinguisher not clamped down. And I've seen that violation a lot. Okay? It is one of the triggers. I don't know if you have a separate one in the back. Make sure it's on there, make sure it's in test, and make sure it's ready to go. You also are required to have 3 emergency triangles. Those are the reflective ones that you have to have. It's separated so far out if you get disabled on the side of the road. Okay, it will write that up. I've had an investigator, just to give you an idea how kind of schneisty they can be. It was a fuel truck, and she said he had all this stuff, and she goes, all right, where's your flares at? Where are your flares? You know, and he went, right here. Can't have flares on the accident. That's a baby, okay? All right, so it will try to do silly stuff like that. They're getting better with it, but it does happen. Proof of insurance, your DOT number and company name. Okay, if it's required to have a DOT number, you can have US DOT number. Michigan has their own state law. If you drive from Michigan, it has to be 3 inches tall. Whereas the federal rule says it has to be contrasting color, visible by 50 feet. Okay? Any questions on that? And the maintenance aspect in general. All right, moving along. We are getting into the hours of service. This is the most challenging part of driving in today's world. Okay, I'm not going to go into the one side of the commercial motor vehicle or beating that one to death, but the other side is really important. How the government determines on-duty time for regards to driving of a commercial motor vehicle. There are 8 sections there. Number 1, on time at a plant, terminal, facility, or other property, or motor carrier, shipper, on any public property waiting to be dispatched, unless the driver has been relieved from duty by the motor carrier. That constitutes a lot of space right there. Number 2, on time inspecting, servicing, or conditioning any commercial motor vehicle at any time, which means you're working on it at any time. Number 3, all driving time is defined in the term driving time. I'm at the controls of a truck. That's on duty time. Number 4, all time other than driving time. Enter a commercial motor vehicle except time spent resting in a sleeper berth. Do we have sleeper berths on our trucks in here? I'm glad you can count. Okay, so we don't have to worry about that. Number 5, all time loading or unloading a commercial motor vehicle, supervising or assisting in the loading or unloading, attending a commercial motor vehicle being loaded or unloaded, remaining in attendance, or readiness to operate the commercial motor vehicle or giving and receiving. See where they're going with this? Number 6, all time preparing, obtaining assistance, or remaining in attendance on a disabled commercial motor vehicle. For the CDL guys, all time spent providing a breath sample or urine specimen, including travel time to and from the collection site. Number 8, performing any other work in the capacity, employee, or service of a motor carrier. And number 9, performing any compensated work for a person who is not a motor carrier. Okay? Let's think about that. On-duty time when it comes to driving a commercial motor vehicle. There's a common misconceptions for people that haven't been really trained with that. Well, I only drove 3 hours today. It's almost all time you're at work. Okay? The fatigue factor is what they're tracking. All right? A couple examples of this. Guy may be working at owns his own lawn mowing place. That's on duty time. Or if he's working for somebody else and he's getting a W-2 for it, it's going to show. That counts as on duty time. I was consulting for a company that they were using a guy on the weekends to drive their commercial motor vehicle. All right. During the week, he was working at a foundry. Well, they thought he had all kinds of hours to drive the truck on the weekend. Well, he worked 60 hours at the foundry. The worst thing happened to them. He got involved in a bad accident while he was on the weekend working for Company B. They found out that he was working 60 hours at that other place. He was over his hours when the accident happened, and it was not good. Okay? Yeah, another example of this, you know, you guys have seen the railroad. Obviously, we got a lot of railroad around here. You ever seen the vans hauling the conductors around? Okay? They're under the same rules as we are, is what I'm describing today. You know why they do that? To hook up, to make sure that those guys can drive as far as they can. Have you ever heard the stories of the railroad guy stopping the train to get out because he's out of hours? You know, back when they started doing electronic data logs, your national companies that had these automatic onboard recording devices, there was a couple triggers that would cause that thing to start beeping at them saying, hey, in 20 minutes, truck's out of hours, you're out of time. It's going to start governing down, or it's going to stop, or it's going to start being incapacitated. You're going to be in violation. Okay? It's all out there. They're tracking the hours on everything really stringently. Hours are one of the triggers in an audit that are really, really bad because they're very, very interpretive. I'm going to try to dispel as many myths as I can, but going into these hours of service, it's a real trigger, it's a real problem, especially in the construction-based industry. Okay? Another example of this too, by the way. What do the rest areas look like in the morning when you drive by them? Why do you think that is? Okay? Yeah.
So even if we're in construction, we still have to have, we keep track of our hours, we have to have somebody in the truck.
Even if you're working at a job site and you're gonna drive, let's say, a commercial truck or somewhere during the week or anything to that nature, you have to have some kind of. I'm gonna give
the
it.
truck to the job site, working on the job site, driving the truck back.
You have to track for all those hours. Yeah.
So you said that like there's obviously a maximum you're allowed to do over a week or whatever it may be, but on a day, like how many hours do you have to stop before you can get back at it again? So let's say some of those 14 hours and then they stop for 6 or.
Good question. Jumping the gun.
Sorry.
I'm gonna answer all those questions. All right. I'm gonna try to answer all the questions. Ask you questions. Thank you for asking the question. I'm not trying to pick on you.
That was good.
But I'm going to go through it all, okay? What type of logs are required? I'm going to kind of bounce past this. I'm going to go to this next slide. This slide right here is very important. This is the one that will dispel some of the myths and everything else that goes into it. All right? Left side of the panel. And for the love of God, I don't know why they did this, but they did it. 10,001 to 26,000 pounds. There's your GAT vehicle trucks, right? Right? Right. I just told you what the start time was. If your driver stays within 150 air mile radius of their home reporting location, 150 air miles is about 167 miles. You take your home reporting location, draw a line out, 167 miles, stay within that circle, and start to stop in 12 consecutive hours. If you do that, all you really have to have is something to illustrate start time, end time, total hours. If you were to get pulled over and you follow within that parameters, because where's your logbook? See, I don't do a logbook. Okay, but they're going to check. They're going to say where you're going, where you're coming from. If you're going to go outside that radius, then you have to have a long form log. If you were to go over 12 consecutive hours, all right. That means you start at 7 in the morning and at 7 o'clock at night. If you work over that, when you get back, you are required to do a long form log. All right, now let's the other side of that, 26,000 or more CDL type vehicles, it's 100 air mile radius. Okay? Everything else is the same. Let's expand on this. Examples. People that deliver fuel oil or propane to your house. Do they drive over their radius? Probably not. Probably ever, never. Okay? They have a small territory. All right? If they stay within their, do that and stay within their radius, do it in 12 consecutive hours, start time, end time, total hours is all I have to produce in an audit. But if I look at their time card, they're getting paid by the hour, and they punched in at 7, they punched out at 7:30. I don't care if they took an hour lunch, don't care. That is over 12 consecutive hours. That day, they have to turn in a long form log and the start time and end time, just like you see on ice road truckers. You've got to have the start time and end time match what your time is. Okay? Yeah.
Those that only 9 days a month.
Now, that's for the LDs.
Okay.
Good questions? Getting good?
Okay.
Getting good? Thank you. No, good questions, guys. We'll get to that. All right. Now, the 12 consecutive hours is very stringent. Okay? If you are going to drive outside the radius by happenstance or going far for a job or pick up a piece of equipment, you have to have your logbook current to the last change of duty status. I'm going to go into that. But another mannerism, if you fall within the 12 consecutive hours, if you're getting paid by the hour, there's a time card. If you're owner of the company, great for you. If you're going to drive a truck, you are not exempt from these rules. Okay? Even though you may get paid salary. Okay? You still have to have something to illustrate your time records. like I said, the bottom of this is a long form log that you see most of the truckers using, actually not anymore, but that's a long form log. This is called a short form or exempt log. It's about the same thing as a time card. For the instance of maybe once a month, we drive far for a job or to get a piece of equipment, we're gonna go outside our radius. I don't know if you can read it, but right around, where it says right in the bottom, it says check if log sheet attached. This is a great method if you're, by happenstance or very infrequently, are going to take a commercial motor vehicle and go far, pick up a piece of equipment or anything of that nature. You have to have a long form log started and going on as you're going, all right? But if you're also required to have your previous 7 days worth of time. If you make copies of your time card, produce time records, or whatever. Or you can use this. I don't care if you get paid salary, I don't care. You have to have time records, true and accurate time records, okay? It's just one of the nature of the beast. How logs are viewed by enforcement agents nationwide, most of the rules that I'm describing to you guys are designed for coast-to-coast truck driving operations. I can tell you with confidence, I'm not standing in a room with coast-to-coast truck drivers, okay? But you guys still fall under these rules. The coast-to-coast truck drivers, they don't get paid by the hour. They get paid by the mile, by the ton, by the load. So how does that guy make more money? All more miles, all more ton, all more load. Okay? You guys have all heard the old school guys are running 2 log books. Okay? 2 log books used to get the guy used to keep going and run and keep running and make money and fall asleep and crash and take out the family. Okay? But the 2 log book aspect, it's kind of fallen by the wayside. I used to be able to teach old guys back in the old days when I first started, I could teach a monkey to fool a guy out on the road. Because I got all those guys saying, I've been 30 years, they haven't told me got me on any of my logs. Probably not on the roadside, but in an audit they will. Because they're going to look at a lot of things when they come in. When it comes to hours of service, they're going to look at a lot of aspects. Whereas your paper trail behind you, trust me, is this big. Okay? It's very large. And I will explain to you what I mean by that in a little bit. Okay? But the time frame, hours of service, what has to be tracked, if they walk through that door, you have to be able to present to them 6 months worth of time records. All right, generally they won't go back 6 months for everybody, but they will break it down. I want to see January, October, December, months for each guy. Depends on the size of your company and how many they're going to look at. But I guarantee you, if some guy got pulled over on the road and he didn't have a log book or anything of that nature, that's the first guy they're going to look at is time record. Okay? All right. Let's go right into it. This is what the federal government has deemed a supporting document for your logs and time records. I'll just let you sit back and take a look at that list and you just drink it all in. I know not all of it applies to you, but take a look at it. See where I'm coming from? They will use all that in the worst case scenario, heaven forbid there's an accident. Your time records are just absolutely unbelievable. Obviously, auditors that I've run across, they are not workaholics. When they come in to do an audit, they're not going to try to look at your bumper receipts if you try to pay them. But they aren't going to go with the first plan of attack. They know you're going to get fuel somewhere. Okay, so they are going to look at your fuel receipts. I can't tell you how many logs I looked at in the past where I look at a guy's logs and he goes 10,000 miles without getting fuel. Okay, first off, I would love to patent that engine. I'd be a multi-billionaire. Okay, they know you're going to get fuel somewhere. And old school truckers will go, well, I pay cash for my fuel. Great. That auditor says, where'd you get it? Down the road here. Hey, can I see your cash receipts for that day, please? Thank you. They won't mess around when it comes to time records. Time records, unfortunately, in the system that we're in, you are guilty until proven innocent. They don't believe anything on you, okay? Guys used to falsify logs so bad. I have physically seen guys with toll receipts. You know, they actually point. If you went from point A to point B, and the only way you're gonna get there in the time you put on that log is on a toll road, where's your toll receipts? I have physically seen a guy, on every toll receipt he had a drop of water on the time. In the old fax cover sheet time receipt. Okay, and I'm like, oh, that'll probably help the investigator. He won't make your budget or nothing. You know, and I used to tell guys when I looked at their logs. I look at them, I mean, and then just like this, I look at the miles on their logs. Okay? Why am I looking at the miles of their logs? Because if I start looking and I look at all their logs, I can go within about 30 seconds, go, I want to push the issue, I can probably prove he's falsifying. Because every day on his time and his miles was a division of 5 or 10. 350, 250, 200, 225, 275. Man, that's a pretty nice gig you got going on there if everything falls into place and this guy's smooth, you know? And then you go into logs and you look at them, they chart, put miles on there. Every day, if they take the amount of time a driving guy has driving, and I look at the miles, and it comes up to 52.0. Okay, you're not going to get through big cities during rush hour at 52 miles an hour. Not happening. You ever been through Atlanta? Not happening. Okay, so the time records are one of the things that they're going to look at. You guys are probably in the mindset. You guys are generally probably all hourly and have a paper trail at the job sites or something like that where you're working at it. But this is one of the areas that they are very stringent with the hours of service, okay? They really are looking at it. For you guys, they just gotta make sure that you're not being fatigued behind the wheel, all right? This was just to tell you guys that the lengths they will go to improve the guys' laws, okay? All right, any questions on that before I move further?
Who's liable for that, the driver or the company?
Both. They're gonna fine you for doing it, they're gonna fine the company for allowing you to do it. So, that's kinda just how they do it. Now, this was the question that you brought up, the electronic logging devices. You guys have all heard about this, right? No? Okay. December 18th of last year, government has been, first they started doing the satellite GPS automatic onboard recording devices. The bigger companies were using. When they used the satellite kind of system, there were two ways that the systems worked. One went off to a GPS satellite, which was a good one, but they were very expensive. The second type of system worked off cell phone towers. Okay? Well, the government, in its infinite wisdom, thought we put this GPS system in all their trucks, we're not going to have any hours of service violation. You guys aren't going to be falsifying their logs anymore. Well, that didn't fall out that way. There are parts of this country where you can't get a signal. You guys can probably attest to that, can't you? You know, you won't get a signal. You don't care if it's GPS or they started running, the companies were required to print reports. I have seen reports. Guys in Oklahoma, Scranton, Pennsylvania. How did you go from Oklahoma to Scranton, Pennsylvania? How did you do that? Okay? It happens. The guys were turning them off, they were doing all that stuff. So the government said, all right, we've got to revamp this. So they introduced, and there was a lot of stuff about it. I sent a lot of notices out last year saying if you do have to do long form logs, the type that you have to do, if you have to do it more than 8 times in any 30-day window, which again, I don't know if that's going to come into play for the people in this room, okay? But if you do travel far for jobs, and you are doing a long form log and have to do more than 8 times in any 30-day window, then you are required to have an electronic logging device. These electronic logging devices, how they work, okay? There's a little transponder, it goes underneath the dash, somewhere underneath the dash. It links to the engine. What that engine's doing shows data to this ELD thing. And there's guys that have a couple ways to do it. There's tablets, they have tablets with it. You know, they boom, 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 links to that transponder, it could be a Bluetooth or whatever. So they have an app on their cell phone. They open up the app, hand it to the investigator on the road. All right? what that thing is doing. Anytime that truck's moving, there's a data record being produced. Okay? So it got away from not having signal. It's always gonna have a signal because the truck, generally, if it's working right, which they're gonna find out that, and like I said, this has just been introduced. And I can tell you with all the meetings and companies I've been dealing with, there's a lot of bugs, there's a lot of little nuances to see things don't work, okay? But the ELDs are coming and they're gonna be eventually here to stay for everybody. Once all the bugs get kinked out, it's gonna be a little easier for tracking of hours. The guys running 2 logbooks, it's not gonna happen anymore. It's just not gonna happen. That's why you're gonna see even the rest areas even now, probably even more flooded in the last couple months than they were even in the past. Okay? These things aren't cheap, and there's a lot of data that's being produced. I wish I could tell you I could figure out the matrix. The way that thing tracks, it tracks speed, it tracks location, it tracks brake, it tracks idle speed. It's all tracked on there. And it can, the program that they have set up, it just automatically tracks what they're doing. If that truck's driving, it shows. Okay? So it is out there. Right now, we're in the grace period from December 18th to April 1st. It comes up to the discretion of the investigators if they want to write up violations. Well, through all the companies I represent and what I've seen, they're writing up violations. Now, these violations don't have any points occurred to them yet. Remember I told you on the profile, they're just writing it up. It's not incurring points yet. But after April 1st, because I'll be honest with you, the way it was set up at December 18th threshold, everybody backed off. Usually in the government, when they kind of introduce new rules, they usually, well, we're gonna postpone. This time they didn't postpone, because they really sent out tours, they sent out, national tours, conferences to get these ELDs set up in place, because they really, really want to get these going in the trucking industry, okay? It's breaking down to where these things, like I said, they're very expensive, but most of the companies, they didn't get them right away. They waited till the last minute to try to get them. And guess what? They couldn't get them installed on their trucks till now, because there was such a backlog on trucks. The other kicker with that is if you have a truck that is pre-2000, you don't have to have an ELD. I can't tell you how many companies that call me and say, Jay, anybody's got a 1999 truck that works good? They work harder to get around the regs if they would just do the regs. But every day they were getting calls, probably 10 a day, all the places that sell trucks, trying to get them over the pre-2000. All right. Now, the hours of service. Okay. I'm going to go into real quick on the last part of laws. What are the hours parameters that we are required to have? Okay, what are the breakdowns? The current rules are as follows. For first, when you're not exempt, all right, when you don't fall under this aspect, these are the rules. And like I said, these are for truckers that go far, all right? They're always doing long form logs. And it could be in a scenario for you guys. The rules are derived as follows. I have a 14-hour shift from when I start in the morning. So that means if I start at 7 o'clock in the morning, 14 consecutive hours later is 9 o'clock at night. In that 14 hours, I am allowed to drive 11. Okay, so there'll be 3 hours to drop, hook, get food, whatever you got to do. The other nuance that came into effect is these parents against tired truckers or mothers against tired truckers, these special interest groups. They said, well, we've got studies that say a driver's alertness gets exponentially worse after 8 consecutive hours. So the government instituted any chunk of 8 consecutive hours of on-duty or driving, you must take a half-hour off-duty break. Okay? You understand what I'm going with? I try to tell my clients, if you start at 7, I would not take that half-hour break till somewhere after 10. Because if you take it earlier than that and are working late, you may have to take another half-hour break because you're not allowed to have over 8 hours of on-duty driving time without a half-hour break. Okay? Now, in that 14 hours, I said you could drive 11. The minute you come up to that, you are not allowed to drive a commercial motor vehicle after the 14th consecutive hour of being on duty. Okay? Once that happens, then you must take 10 consecutive hours off before you can drive again. Not 9 3/4, not 9 1/2, 10. Okay? So that's why you see those rest areas overflowing. There's not enough spaces for these guys to sit. Okay? The 10 consecutive hours is very paramount, and that's the daily rules. Now, what are we allowed per week? If our company operates every day of the week, and this could be once or twice a year, we work on Sunday, okay? We are allowed, I told you what we're allowed per day, this is the per week aspect. You're allowed 70 hours in any 8 consecutive days if you operate every day of the week. If you don't operate every day of the week, you are allowed 60 hours of on-duty time in any 7 days. Okay? You are not allowed to drive after the 60 or 70, 11 hours of driving or 14 hours. Remember I told you about those national companies where that truck would govern down? It tracked every one of those triggers. If they were coming up to any one of them, it would beep at them and say, you better find a place to sit. That is why you see the railroad people with the vans trying to get the most out of their people to drive them to certain locations to hook up with the truck, the trains. It's all out there. They're really cracking down on hours of service. Okay? I used to work for a national carrier, and the #1 guy used to drive from where I'm from around the Sandusky area to Cincinnati, and in the 60 hours and any 7 days. He used to be able to do that around 5 days a week, 12 hours a day. I mean, he was pushing it, but he could do it 5 days a week, boom, okay? I was there, and this is in 1995, to give you an idea how serious they were back then, all right? That #1 guy, Wednesday, they said, hey, Mike, stop by Dayton, drop a trailer, pick up a trailer, come home. Well, that ate into his time. The very next day, Mike, stop by Columbus, drop off the trailer, pick one up, come back home. All right? As God is my witness, I'm there on the last day. He is in Attica. If you don't know where Attica is, in regards to Sandusky, it's about 2 hours away, 1 1/2, 2 hours away. He pulled into a truck stop, got on the phone, said, hey, it's Mike, I'm here in Attica, come get me. Click. And that's what they wanted him to do. The company stressed, it's not worth it to us for you to drive that 1 1/2 to get back home, because heaven forbid if you were to get in an accident in that time, we're going to be dinged. So that's how serious it was even back then on the hours of service. They did not want him to drive that extra 1 1/2 to get back home. Okay? So 60 in any 7 days if you don't operate every week, 70 hours in any 8 days. One of the few good rules that was introduced a couple years ago is the 34-hour restart. The 34-hour restart, you're allowed 1 in any week. That means if you have 34 consecutive hours off, your slate is cleared. Clean your slate. Okay? You don't start at whatever you had your previous 7 days, boom, you started at 0 hours. Okay? So they used to have it where you could take 34 hours, started it, well, a guy would work 70 hours in like 4 days, take 34 hours off, and then drive some more. And they went, no, we can't have him do that because in the course of 7 days, he's working like he needs 7 hours or something, like 8 hours. They didn't want that, so they said, it's only 1 per week. But 34 consecutive hours does restart your clock. Okay? Any questions real quick on the hours of service? Yes?
What about the gas vehicles on when they drive home after work or contact you?
Well, they do have the personal conveyance aspect to it, but there's a couple little provisions that go with that. And I will tell you from experience, anytime that truck's on the road, it's a target. All right, just to let you know. And I'm not trying to make it up, and I'm not trying to make more work for you guys, but you do have exemptions that say you're allowed to drive that personal conveyance home. All right, but it's got to be unloaded. You're not reloaded for another day's work. You know, they're designed for the trucking companies. You can't go get a load and then use it as a personal conveyance to go home. Okay? The government has it set up that even with the ELDs, you can track it as ELDs. If you're on a job site, you're staying out, you can drive a commercial vehicle to your hotel or to get food, whatever. But you're still a target. If something was to happen, it's gonna be a little more challenging. Even though you're right in the aspect of it, I'm just forewarning you, you're still a target. Even though you are using it as a personal domain. Okay? Are there any other questions in regards to hours of service? Like I said, I do have stuff that I can email to you if you need to have it, and I can help you with that. I can field calls. It's one of the areas that's real challenging. The 8 days in any 30-day window was designed for you guys, okay? The construction-based companies. You know, you drive to the first day you need a log because you're driving to a job site, and then you're at the job site for all week. Then you need a log to get back home. So that's why they've kind of drafted it. Any 8 days in any 30-day window, you're not required to have any electronic logging device. But you do got to track the hours. I mean, it still has to be tracked, but you don't require any ELD or electronic logging. Okay? Any other questions real quick, or if you think of them as we go, please don't hesitate to ask me. All right. I kind of went in on the audit aspect. When they do come in and the triggers that I told you about. The triggers are as follows. First and foremost, which I stated earlier, your profile from the DOT number. If you have a problem with hours or maintenance or driver qualification or anything like that nature from roadsides and you're in a guarded position, they are going to come in to investigate why. Okay? The second course is, heaven forbid, there's a really nasty accident or it's fatalities or shutting down an interstate or anything of that nature. That's the one call I just don't like. I had the luxury of working for a company that was the worst rated one in the state of Ohio. They were Romanian. They're nice people, but they just didn't know anything about the trucking. Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, I get a call from them. Go, hey, did you see the news? No. What's going on? And sure as crap, right around Cleveland, snowing, at night, shut down one of the major arteries around Cleveland. I'm like, oh dear God. And I knew they were going to get audited, which they were audited once. Companies try to do this is a long time ago. Companies back in the day, if they have a bad profile, they say, we're just going to shut down this company and start a brand new company. You know, that's called a chameleon carrier. They're getting privy to that. They're checking to make sure that it's not the same company with a different name. Okay? So they are tracking that. If you do get a DOT number, you are going to have to go through a thing called a new entrant safety audit. Back a year ago, state investigators used to do these new entrant safety audits. Every Tuesday, they schedule a couple of them. If you apply for a new DOT number, you got to go through a bunch of protocol, answer a bunch of questions, and they're going to come in and make sure that you have your stuff. When it was first introduced, it took an act of God to fail these things. I mean, you have to be a break of society. And it went good for about 2 years on that process. Then they got wise and they started asking a bunch of other new questions. And it got harder to pass these things. You had to have some stuff to be able to prove that you're trying to make compliance. You're drug and alcohol, the whole gamut. So the new entrant audit is out there. That's why the newer companies are starting to come into play. I had a client that was being Whirlpool was asking this company to haul their stuff. And he kind of went, no. And he goes, he finally gave up and Whirlpool sent in the proposal for him to haul the Whirlpool. Now, you don't understand, Whirlpool is so large, and they say jump, it's supposed to go how high serve. Okay? Well, he got the proposal and he went, thanks, but no thanks. All right? Whirlpool was hiring a larger trucking company. When these hours of service changed and it got a little more aggressive with the audits and stuff, it got to the point where the trucking company went to him and said, you know, Whirlpool, your emergency doesn't constitute an emergency on my part. I'll deliver it for you, but it's going to be there when I get there. Well, Whirlpool's having none of that. So they started soliciting all these little mom and pop trucking operations. Well, for the first couple of months, it was great. They were doing everything they wanted them to do. But guess what? They started their new DOT number, got the new entrant audits, saw what they were doing, and it got to the point where even the little mom and pops were going, hey, I can't do that. And eventually, Whirlpool went to the bigger companies. You know, I mean, that's just where it's going. given, it's changing and how it's going. These ELDs are gonna change some things, steel haulers. If you know anybody that hauls steel, when you get into a steel plant, they just don't park the waters and load you right. What I described and how these hours of service are, it's real challenging for those companies. You know, they get loaded whenever they damn well couldn't get loaded, and that's taken into their driving time and of course a lot of duty time, right? So it is out there, the new entrant program's a big player. Beginning of this year, I had my first new entrant audit where the state wasn't doing it. It was the federal government. I had to send an email to, well, actually the state too, but it was through the FMCSA. We had to email them everything. They asked us to itemize the list of what we had to have. We emailed it to them. They came back, said, we need a couple more things, we're good. But that's what's out there. You're not just gonna start a trucking company up and think that you're gonna just go on it and keep going. It's just not gonna happen in today's world. Okay? All right, on the audit aspect, we do all the companies that have a DOT number. If you're doing interstate commerce, you have to have a thing called an MCS 90. It's a blanket insurance policy. It's for general, without hazmat, and the type of vehicles that we're probably talking about in this room, it has to be for $750,000. If you have commercial insurance, you probably have an MCS 90 somewhere generated. All right, in an audit scenario, it will make you produce an MCS 90. Okay? That has to, the policy has to exactly match to what your articles of incorporation are, your DOT number, and your MCS 90 have to match to the period. You can't have ink on one, incorporated on the other. They will make you change your profile so it matches, so all three of those things match. Okay? Driverless days of hire, obviously you gotta have that. They're gonna look at who'll be, actually gonna say who'll be hired and fired within the last year. Driver files, they're gonna look at those too. They may not look at everybody. Today's audits are now called focused audits, and it's driven from the data on the roadside. All right. If you have a problem in maintenance, they're obviously going to look at maintenance and look at a couple other factors that I discussed tonight. Years ago, they didn't do focused audits. If they were coming in your door, they looked at everything from A to Z. They don't do that anymore. They will evolve to that if they look at what was the problem and it was bad, then they will expand and keep going on. Okay. But audits today are considered focused audits. Some of them don't even generate ratings. Back in the day, the ratings you used to get from an audit were satisfactory, conditional, and unsat. All right, you get an unsat, that means you've got to fix stuff pronto before, or they will take your DOT number and operating authority away. Okay, conditional means we have found some issues, you don't get a satisfactory, not good. Okay. I can tell you with confidence, if you didn't have a satisfactory rating, your insurance company sure knew about it. Okay, they hammered companies, and it got to the point where if you didn't have a satisfactory rating, there were some companies that wouldn't touch it. So the ratings and everything I discussed, it kind of is all linked together. It affects your insurance, it affects how your livelihood is at some of the trucking companies. Granted, we don't have a lot of that for here, since you guys are more of the construction things. Accident reports. Lost run report. Remember I always told you there's a check and balance. Companies are required to have a thing called an accident register. I hope to God you never have to fill anything out on it. But once again, this is a utopia. If there's an accident or anything that's been a claim to your insurance company, the investigators will say, I want you to print me a lost run report. Which means if there's been any claims, it's going to show it's a check and balance to your accident report. Okay? They will also see if there's an accident, it'll show on a profile. How many accidents you've had, what are the limits. How it breaks down, the government says accidents can happen anytime, anywhere, by anybody, and all accidents, are, according to them, are preventable. So any accident that does occur, it's going to show on your profile, even if it's not your fault. Okay? The way it breaks down in an audit, they will tell you, the company say, how many miles did you drive last year? And it will break it down. You're allowed 1.5 recordable accidents per million miles. If you're above that threshold, you're going to fail the accident part, and you're not going to get a satisfactory rating. Okay? But then they will go in, and I've had to do this for a company that had so many accidents. We had a petition saying, yeah, we got a lot of accidents on our profile, but there's a couple of them here that, man, there's nothing we could have done. We actually had one of them had a dash cam video. Okay? There was the truck, he was right here, car ahead of him, about a mile up. It's raining, kind of 40 degrees, you got heat on. Well, there's an off-ramp, a 2-lane off-ramp. Well, this car ahead of him says, I'm gonna pull off the off-ramp, turn signal, you know, and as he's slowing down, the truck's catching up to him. Well, the guy looks over and looks ahead, there's an accident, it's all on the dash cam. So he goes, oh, nope, I'm not going that way, so he whips around, loses control. At this time, my semi's right on top of him, this guy's just, and he's braking and turning and bang, just bumped into him. It's an accident on the company's profile. You know, showed, well, he ran somebody, blah, 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 blah. We got a dash cam of that showed that, well, hey, it wasn't our fault. He tried to do everything he could do to prevent this accident. You can see him braking, you can see him turning. It was everything he could do so they didn't discount, they discounted that accident. Okay? So it's out there. And like I said, these accidents, there was an instance, dash cams are a catch-22. All right, I've had a client that actually put data recorder cameras in their trucks. One in front, one on the driver. It was an event recorder more than a camera. If they broke too hard, it would register the 8 seconds prior, 8 seconds after. If it brakes too hard, it's doing all that. So it's one of the nuances to it. By chance, I don't know if you guys ever seen it, dash cams are, like I said, they can be really good, they can be really bad. You guys have probably seen a couple of scenarios where the guy has a dash cam, cop pulls him over and says, well, you didn't stop at that stop sign. You seen a couple of those videos of that? Where they gave him a leg to stand on. The guy said, you know, okay, if that's your word. He wrote him up and he went to court and said, here's my dash cam. Shows the whole thing. I came to a complete stop. That was him just trying to think about it, right me up. There was also another instance. Guy's going, let's say, northbound on a 2-lane highway. There's a turn lane going that way and light. Well, in the other lane, coming the other way, in the turn lane, is a Homeland Security van. Okay? Homeland Security van makes the turn, bam, this guy hits it. Homeland Security guy gets out, and I don't know if you know anybody in Homeland Security, they have a lot of authority, very powerful entities. That guy gets out and just rips that driver a new butt, just says, it's your fault, I'm gonna make sure you never drive again, just ripping him up and down. Guy had a dash cam, light was green, it was the Homeland Security guy's fault. Saw that video. So they can help you, but they can hurt you too. I just wanted to make sure everybody's kind of aware of it. It's kind of a new toy in the trucking industry, but it's probably good to start coming around. I personally, I wouldn't have one in my vehicle if I could afford it. I don't want it. Just because it's what it is. It's my personal preference. All right. Maintenance records, hours of service for 6 months, and drug and alcohol consortium. So those are the things, real highlight view of things that you have to have in the event of an audit. The other topic that I kind of hinted on, but I didn't really go into a lot of depth on, is hazmat. Hazmat, the way it's viewed, trucking companies that haul placardable amounts of hazmat are weighted heavily, more heavy, twice as heavy as a regular company that doesn't haul hazardous materials. So let's break down hazmat. What are we talking about? Hazmat, when it requires placarding, means that you are carrying something over 119 gallon or more liquid with a capacity of, or 1,000 pounds. If you fall under those two parameters, which I don't think we're going to in this room, I'm just trying to cover all the bases today, you have to require placarding. Most companies believe that all you got to do if you haul hazmat is, I got a hazmat endorsement, that's all I need. No, that's not all you need. You need so many other things. So I don't think it's going to come into place. I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but I just want to make sure that everybody's kind of on the same page. Back in the day when I told you on the construction companies, they used to haul their own diesel fuel. They could have their 15,000 pound supervisor truck with a 12,000 pound trailer and an empty diesel tank on that trailer. Okay? That's a Class A CDL with a hazardous material endorsement. You guys ever notice why the construction companies don't haul placardable amounts of diesel to their companies anymore? You notice how they bring their jobbers come in and fill their equipment? There's a reason for that. How it's all broken down. It wasn't worth it to them to haul the hazardous material. Okay? Yeah.
So what about like Cummins trucks and stuff? You guys will add like a 100-gallon tank in the bed of the truck, and then they got like 34 gallons underneath the truck. Like that's well over 115.
Well, the fuel tank for the propulsion of the vehicle is not they don't count that. Farm trucks, 100 gallons usually, they're usually made under 119 gallon capacity, all right? It's not required if it's under 119 gallon capacity. If it's over that, then it could be an issue, all right? If it's over 119 gallon capacity, that's a placardable load. Okay?
Even if it's piped into the vehicle?
Yeah, I mean, they're using it as a propulsion, as maybe an extra tank. Where the problems arise for that is you're trying to get away, is it dyed fuel or not dyed fuel? You gotta be careful with that, because they will look at that too. Okay, you can't try to not pay your road taxes on the fuel. The things that I wanna watch out for, like I said, if you have some drums of nasty stuff, you can put one drum on a half-ton truck, not placarded. Second drum, not placarded. But you put a third drum on that truck, that's a hazardous material load. It's over 119 gallon capacity, and it's over 1,000 pounds. Okay?
Break it all the tank in.
Full or empty, that unless it's cleaned and purged. Well, actually, a gasoline truck is more volatile empty than it's full. Okay? So the hazmat, you guys might have welding supplies, don't have too many bottles on there. It's okay. If you are hauling welding supplies, as God is the Almighty, make sure they're standing up, and when they're in transit, put the cap on. Okay? If they're tilted, they're gonna write you up. Okay, they're looking for stuff like that. So, yeah,
That's 1,000 pounds on the welding supplies, right?
1,000 pounds if it goes, yeah. How much you grown, you know, how many tanks you have on there, you gotta limit so many tanks, right? Okay? Are there any other questions or anything for me? Yeah.
Pulling a generator that carries 400 gallons.
Okay. If it's that big and it holds that kind of amount, once again, that tank is designed for the generator use, okay? The one thing that does change for when you're hauling engines or anything like that with tanks, remember I said that MCS 90 comes into play if you are hauling equipment with gas tanks? It's not a placardable load, but they're mandating for people that haul cars or anything of that nature, you have to have $1 million worth of coverage on your MCS 90 or insurance because you're hauling tanks. It's not that it's placarded, make sure I want to preface that. It's not placarded, but you do have to have that extra insurance company if you are hauling equipment with tanks, aka generator, backhoe, bobcat, all that stuff if you're a CEO, type where they do interstate. Okay? Other questions for me in regards to everything? Yeah.
So I've seen some, like I race cars, and I see a lot of these like toter homes, big trailers. They come in and it says like, not for hire or
Right.
private coach or
Right.
something on the side.
Well, I know a PUCO inspector, if you guys are racing and they're hauling for money, they're regulated, but that's the rub. And I've heard that at about every safety meeting I've ever been at. I could buy a motorhome that has air brakes, well over 26,000 pounds. Guess what? I don't have to have a CDL for that vehicle. An 80-year-old man could drive that down the road.
So even with like a big ass trailer behind it, that's.
108 foot long, that beard over 108 foot long,
If it's considered a motor coach,
Yep.
So as long as
doesn't
it's
need
got
to have
a,
anything.
as long as it's got a toilet, it's all right.
Yeah, motor coach or certified as a,
Place to store food,
yeah,
cook food.
doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy, but yeah, that's the,
They carry
you're going into the common sense factor,
100
guys.
gallons of alcohol in the back.
That's ATF, that's a different domain in the government, I'm not going. Just as the last slide here that I wanted to kind of go over, on everybody that has a DOT number, this is kind of the set of factors that they look at on the roadside, the data is being produced from roadside investigations. This is a quick, small summary snapshot of it, but it goes into the 7 factors. If they're deficient in any one of these factors, these are the triggers for them to come in and do an audit. Unsafe driving is speeds, lane change, fail to obey traffic signal, crash, obviously, hours of service, maintenance, controlled substance, and then hazmat, and the last having driver fitness, not having the medical card, not being qualified. All these are the factors, 7 factors. If you are deficient in one of those, you'll see like it looks like a tractor slow moving sign put on there, and that's not where you want to be. If you get to that level, federal government will probably send you a letter saying, hey, you're deficient in this area, make some corrective action, or come in, or if they're bored, if you come up on their hit list, you're gonna come in and modify. All right? So I just want to make sure everybody's on it. Now this one that I took this off of, if I had showed it to you 50 years ago, or 50 years ago, 5 years ago, there was about 2 or 3 of those yellow placards on there. So they've really cleaned up their act. They actually had under controlled substance testing. They had a guy got pulled over, had fills, one of them was drunk, had a bottle in his truck. It was absolutely frightening. This company has 701 drivers, and in 3 years they've had 2,132 roadside inspections. Okay, so bigger companies, auditors generally don't like to go into those things because there's a lot of work to them. It usually takes them weeks. And they usually have a couple of them. For small companies, that's kind of a niche. They come in or they make you send stuff to them as part of the CSA fees. But that's kind of, unless there's any other questions for me? Yeah.
Let's apply to farms now.
Yeah, they actually have gotten a little more stringent with the farming. It's called MAP 21. It's a new facet to it. The farmers were exempt from a lot of things. They actually have changed a little of the rules for the farming. I can't go into specifics because I gotta refresh my memory, but I know for a fact years ago, a farmer had his own fuel truck, and he'd go to a jobber, fill it up himself, and drive it down the road back to his farm. He didn't have a CDL, didn't have any of that stuff. He didn't have to, he was exempt, okay? Farmers are kind of cut their own throat. I mean, I don't know where I'm from, we used to haul those sugar beets. You ever seen a sugar beet? It's a pretty big beet, and they used to put those things like 5 foot above the edge of the truck. You know, they've had so many accidents or incidents that they said, yeah, we got to kind of watch these farmers a little bit. You know, have the CDLs, stuff like that. They have changed the rules. They're made it much more stringent than they used to be. Other questions or comments for me?
One question, when does that driver's report, is that something new, is that interaction with that?
The MVR,
Yeah.
that's been out for a long time.
Is that DOT OSHA thing you're talking about there? For the driver profile?
Oh, the profile?
Yeah, is that?
The CDL guys? And everybody with the CDL? That was one of the phases of CSA. They started that probably about 2010, 11, where they started collecting data, and it's going to start showing, like I said, right now it shows roadsides, and everybody has a CSA profile. There's ways that you can order your own profile to see where you fall. Insurance companies have ways to get in there to look at the profile and make sure to see where you're at. If you've got a history of a lot of roadsides, the insurance company's not going to cover it. They can make sure it's qualified. You can get so many serious violations too in such a short amount of time. Now that also goes into, just to let you know, if you do have a CDL, you are a professional 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Things that happen in your car could affect your livelihood in the CDL. Okay, you get too many speeds, you get a DUI, which unfortunately I got that call 2 weeks ago. One of my clients on the weekend, he got a DUI, and blew bad, and I said, well, I should take you off your list. Can't really use them until it goes in. Try to plead it and get a reckless op, but your points come into play. If you get so many speeds within a certain amount of window, your insurance company's sure gonna let you know, all right? If you get more than 6 points, they start really getting cracking down on you, checking and stuff. Just to let you know, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, okay? Anything else? Any other questions for me?
Hey, those cop killers on the highway there, that, they can take a picture of you and send you the bill?
Oh, the cameras?
Yeah, does that count as points?
Nope.
No.
Funny story on that. My client was the plaintiff, or my client, the owner of my company, he used to live up in Toledo. He was the plaintiff for the red light camera lawsuit. Our company lawyer. You know what their argument was?
what you got on.
Highlights are Ohio Civil, Ohio Constitution, and right face our accusers. They had them all over the place. I was actually afraid to get pulled over if we were really close. Because the car, my company car. But that's, the red light cameras don't go against you, that's a revenue stream. And they are under the practice. And they are starting to do stuff where they got speed cameras, you know, they're tracking all that stuff.
Yeah, they just
They
sit at the side of the road.
yeah,
You guys got the camera, they don't chase you anymore, they just sit in the middle.
yeah.
So,
Well, on certain, like the red light cameras, I know didn't go against your profile, so to say. They would just find you and threaten you without an inch of your life, but it didn't really go against your profile. Because you couldn't face your accuser. Now, I don't know about the speeds. Like I said, I know around Cleveland, they've got video cameras now where it takes a picture and calculates your speed.
They do their hand out, but I think they're still civil penalties.
I think those
Not
are,
traffic.
yeah. All right. I have some of my cards up here. If anybody would like to take some of these, or if you need them, I'll be glad to help you in any way I can. I really enjoyed talking in front of you guys. I hope it was good. If I can help you in any way, shoot me